Hello, my friend. My name is John, and I know you turned on this video to fall asleep. You made the right choice. I'm here to help. But before we begin, I have an important request for you. My channel is going through a tough time, and only you can help save it. Please support me with a like, a subscription, and a comment. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. It really means a lot to me. Now, get comfortable and relax. Today, we delve into a chilling case that has haunted many. The tragic story of Rachel Keeley. The eldest of 4 children born to John and Rose Keeley, Rachel was part of a family that included 3 girls and 1 boy, all raised within the confines of the Jehovah's Witness community. They resided in the Inishmore housing estate, a seemingly ordinary place near the entrance to Reg Park. Rachel was deeply involved in her local congregation, her devotion to her faith unwavering. After completing her education, her life took a turn that would forever change the course of her family's narrative. At Ballinall Community School, Rachel made a calculated decision to pursue a career as a beautician, a choice that would grant her the freedom to immerse herself in missionary work with her local Jehovah's Witness community. In the summer of 2000, she embarked on a journey with one of her sisters to work as an au pair, but the call of home proved too strong, and she returned. Known for her kindness and gentle spirit, Rachel was in a relationship with a boy from her Jehovah's Witness social circle. On that fateful Thursday, the 26th of October, 2000, Rachel stepped out of her home at approximately 4:30 p.m., unaware of the dark turn her life was about to take. With her 2 dogs, embarking on a seemingly ordinary outing. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the familiar paths of the regional park in Ballinall, Rachel ventured into the twilight. She knew this place like the back of her hand, a sanctuary she had roamed countless times before. The encroaching darkness didn't faze her. She expected to encounter fellow park-goers, their laughter mingling with the rustling leaves. Just an hour, she thought, before returning home to a warm dinner prepared by her mother, Rose, who was busy with her Bible study that evening. But as the minutes ticked by, an unsettling silence began to envelop the park, and an hour later, Rose was left with a gnawing sense of dread, her heart racing as she listened for any sign of her daughter. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a chilling sound echoed through the quiet house, scratching at the back door. It was the 2 dogs, restless and anxious, but Rachel was nowhere to be found. An unsettling feeling settled over Rose and her youngest daughter, Elizabeth, as they exchanged worried glances. Without a moment's hesitation, they rushed to the park, retracing the familiar path Rachel often took. But as the clock struck 7 p.m., dread filled the air. There was still no sign of her. As the clock inched closer to 8 p.m., a palpable tension hung in the air. The family, gripped by fear and desperation, reached out to the police, their hearts heavy with worry. Friends and relatives rallied together, their determination unwavering as they scoured the shadows for any sign of Rachel. In a frantic bid to illuminate the darkness that enveloped them, Rose hurried to the local shop, purchasing flashlights that would pierce through the pitch-black night, a beacon of hope in a growing nightmare. On that fateful night, a close family friend stumbled upon Rachel's lifeless body, hidden in the undergrowth just off the walking track. She lay there, fully clothed, face down in a fetal position, obscured by briars and fallen branches. The emergency team was alerted, but it was painfully clear that Rachel was beyond help. The police wasted no time, launching an investigation as the weight of the tragedy settled heavily in the air. Surrounding the lifeless form of Rachel, 6 police officers stood vigil, their presence a solemn testament to the tragedy that had unfolded. They remained steadfast, guarding her until the state pathologist, Dr. Harbison, could arrive to conduct his examination. In the aftermath, Rachel's mother would reflect in interviews, finding a sliver of solace in the knowledge that her daughter was not alone in her final moments, that she was shielded in death, even if the world had failed to protect her in life. When Dr. Harbison finally arrived, he meticulously scrutinized the scene for 3 long hours. Meanwhile, door-to-door inquiries commenced immediately, targeting the homes closest to the park where Rachel had last been seen. Each knock echoing with the weight of desperation and hope for answers. The park at 5:15 p.m. On the 28th of October, a somber ceremony took place as she was laid to rest at St. Oliver's Cemetery in Mahan County, Cork. In the shadows of this tragedy, police issued a haunting appeal to the public, seeking anyone who may have wandered through the regional park that fateful evening. They hoped to uncover crucial leads that could illuminate the dark mystery surrounding the attack on Rachel. Meanwhile, Dr. Harbison, the state pathologist, conducted a preliminary examination of Rachel's lifeless body. The grim findings revealed that she had succumbed to asphyxiation, yet the chilling question lingered. Was it a case of smothering or something more sinister? Further examination was imperative to unravel the truth behind her untimely demise. In a chilling turn of events, the police delved into the dark mystery surrounding the strangulation of Rachel. They sought to uncover the motive behind the brutal attack. Was it a robbery gone wrong, or something far more sinister, a sexual assault? Rachel was discovered fully clothed, yet her garments bore signs of having been tampered with, raising unsettling questions. Authorities began to question known sex offenders and locals, casting a wide net in their investigation. Among those they sought to interview were an elderly man and a group of teenage girls who had been seen in the vicinity at the time of the crime. As the investigation unfolded, CCTV footage from local businesses was meticulously collected, and by the 4th of November, the local paper reported that police were on the hunt for DNA evidence, hoping it would lead them closer to the truth. Samples were meticulously gathered to match those discovered on Rachel's clothes and beneath her nails. Over 1,000 men from the surrounding area willingly provided their samples. Yet the police remained tight-lipped about the nature of the DNA material collected from Rachel. Then, on that fateful Friday, the 10th of November, 2000, the unsettling news broke. An arrest had been made in connection with Rachel's tragic death. The suspect, a mere 16-year-old boy, was taken to G Station in Cork for questioning that very night. The following day, he faced a special sitting of the Cork District Court, the weight of the investigation hanging heavily in the air. He was charged with the heinous acts of murder and rape against Rachel, his identity shrouded in secrecy due to his status as a minor. Hailing from the Ballinack area, he found himself confined within the cold walls of St. Patrick's Juvenile Center in Dublin. The trial commenced on May 1st, 2000, at the Central Criminal Court in Dublin. Rose Keeley, Rachel's mother, was the first to take the stand, recounting the chilling moment when the family dogs returned home just an hour after Rachel had set out to walk them. In a desperate search, she and her youngest daughter, Elizabeth, ventured into the park around 6 o'clock, hoping to find Rachel safe and sound. In the quiet hours of the evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the clock struck p.m., marking the onset of shadows and secrets lurking in the darkness. As the search for Rachel intensified, her name echoed in the air, a haunting reminder of the fear that gripped the community. Elizabeth recalled a chilling moment, believing she had heard a scream pierce through the night. In the midst of their frantic search, they encountered the man who lived just around the corner, the very neighbor who would soon become a focal point in their investigation. Rose hesitated, contemplating whether to question him about Rachel's whereabouts, but the fear of sounding paranoid silenced her instincts. Meanwhile, for boys who had crossed paths with the accused on that fateful evening were summoned to share their accounts. They described his demeanor as unremarkable, a stark contrast to the sinister events that had unfolded, as they reminisced about a night spent watching TV, oblivious to the darkness lurking just beyond their screen. It was a seemingly ordinary evening, the clock striking 6:30 p.m. as I approached a friend's house, unaware of the secrets that lay within those walls. Afterward, they made their way to the regional park, eager to ride motorcycles under the open sky. But their plans quickly unraveled when they spotted the police lurking nearby. The accused, a reckless figure in this unfolding drama, had no insurance or road tax for his motorcycle, leaving it abandoned in the park, a silent witness to the chaos. Dr. Harbison took the stand, his voice steady as he recounted the chilling details. Rachel had been chased down, he asserted, most likely dragged to the grim location where her lifeless body was discovered. He described how she had been placed in a fetal position, a haunting image, after being strangled in a different area. Dr. Harbison's testimony painted a stark picture, revealing the dark reality behind the tragedy that had unfolded. No evidence of forced sexual assault emerged, yet the disheveled state of her clothes spoke volumes. The police presented to the court that the accused had willingly provided a hair and saliva sample. But when it came to a blood sample, he hesitated, gripped by a fear of needles. Dr. Morin Smith took the stand, detailing the forensic evidence she meticulously gathered. Fibers from Rachel's fleece jacket were found to match those from a jumper discovered in the accused's bedroom on the day of his arrest. Additionally, fibers collected from Rachel's pants bore a striking resemblance to those of the jumper, weaving a complex web of connections that could not be ignored. In a chilling twist of fate, the jumper discovered at the scene bore a haunting connection to the evidence collected from Rachel's undergarments and outerwear, all matching the DNA provided by the accused. Dr. Smith's testimony unfolded like a gripping narrative, lengthy and intricate, raising eyebrows as whispers circulated about a juror who appeared to drift into slumber during the intense cross-examination. Yet, the court assured all present that this was merely a rumor, and the trial pressed on. On that fateful Wednesday, the accused mother recounted a tense moment when police arrived at their doorstep, probing into the investigation. Her son, visibly anxious, fretted over the possibility of facing consequences for riding his motorbike without insurance, a worry that seemed trivial against the backdrop of the unfolding drama. In a twist of fate, a young man faced the looming shadow of a 3-year sentence for tax evasion. Despite warnings from a concerned guardian, he chose to flee the area, fearing that his departure might cast suspicion on him regarding the tragic death of Rachel. The guardian, steadfast in her belief, insisted on his innocence. Meanwhile, the accused father painted a picture of a boy who had left school at just 14, a talented athlete with dreams of playing for the Cork junior team. As the eldest of 4 children, he hailed from a stable and respectable neighborhood, living near the Achilles. His connection to Rachel was casual, forged in the halls of their shared school, yet the weight of the accusations loomed large over his young life. In a chilling turn of events, the brother of the accused stepped into the courtroom, his voice steady yet laced with tension. He recounted the fateful day of the murder, revealing that he had visited his girlfriend's workplace, a relationship that had blossomed over 2 years. Just a week prior, the police had approached him, handing him a green form that accused him of dangerous driving, a warning that loomed over him like a dark cloud. He understood the stakes. If he were caught again that night in the park, the consequences would be dire. This knowledge drove him to abandon the bike, a desperate attempt to escape the tightening grip of the law and to flee into the shadows of the night. He claimed he had encountered his friends in the park at precisely 5 p.m. After finishing his shift, he made his way to a friend's house just 10 minutes later. Yet, as the clock struck 5:20 p.m., he found himself drawn back to the park, a place that held secrets of its own. It was a chilling moment when a former babysitter stepped forward, recounting her haunting experience of seeing him in the park at approximately 5:30 p.m. On that fateful day, he found himself in alignment with the accounts provided by his friends, who insisted they had departed the park at precisely 6:30 p.m. to visit a friend's house for some television entertainment, only to find themselves back at the park by the ominous hour of 8 p.m. In a chilling turn of events, the accused found himself in a desperate situation. Upon spotting the police, he hastily abandoned his bike, a decision that would haunt him. Just 2 days after Rachel's tragic death, he confessed to packing his bags, ready to flee when the authorities reached out. His attempts to escape were thwarted by the chaos of the Guinness Jazz Festival, leaving him stranded without a train or bus. As the net tightened, the police swiftly apprehended him, but the fact that he was a minor added another layer of complexity to this unfolding drama. 2 days later, he was brought back home, but the shadows of the investigation loomed large. Authorities summoned him to provide a saliva sample, a crucial piece in the unfolding puzzle. In court, he claimed he hadn't laid eyes on Rachel in over a month, insisting there had been no contact, no close encounters. The defense, however, was relentless, challenging the DNA evidence that hung in the air like a specter. They called forth a second expert who cast doubt on the integrity of the samples. She revealed that the test tubes had not been sealed properly, introducing a theoretical possibility of contamination. Yet, she also cautioned that this was merely a possibility, leaving the courtroom in a tense silence. It seemed improbable, unless orchestrated by a deliberate hand. The narrative unfolded with the revelation that every sample gathered was blood, save for the accused, who had submitted a saliva sample. As the closing arguments commenced, the defense painted a picture of a prosecution ensnared by the allure of science, urging the jury to reflect on the infamous Birmingham Six. For those unaware of this haunting tale, it beckons for investigation. The defense warned of the fallibility of forensic evidence and DNA, suggesting that what appeared to be truth could, in fact, be a treacherous mirage. Meanwhile, the prosecution stood firm, ready to counter the shadows of doubt that loomed over their case. The parents of the accused stood in the witness box, weaving a web of deceit to shield their son from the looming shadows of justice. Their intentions were clear: to facilitate his escape from the clutches of the law, sending him off to his uncle in the UK, rather than to visit a girl in Kilkenny, as he had claimed. This uncle, a man with a dark past, had fled Ireland 2 years prior after being convicted of a serious crime and serving time behind bars. On that fateful Tuesday, the 18th of June, the jury emerged from their deliberations, having been sequestered in a local hotel overnight. After 4.5 hours of weighing the evidence, they delivered their verdict, a chilling declaration of guilt for both murder and rape, reached by a majority that echoed through the courtroom like a death knell. At 10-2, the gavel fell, sealing the fate of the man now known as Ian Horgan. He was sentenced to life for the brutal murder that had captivated the community, while the sentence for the heinous act of rape would be determined later in the year. An application for appeal was swiftly denied, a stark reminder of the gravity of his crimes. The trial, a harrowing 26-day ordeal stretched over 7 weeks, revealed the chilling details of the case. The following day, the press unveiled Horgan's identity, no longer shielded by the veil of youth, as he had just turned 18. The Keeley family, shattered by the loss of Rachel, found it unbearable to remain in their home, so close to the very person who had shattered their lives. On that fateful day, November 22nd, 2002, Horgan's name would forever be etched in the annals of tragedy. In a chilling turn of events, he found himself back in court, facing the weight of his actions as he awaited sentencing for the heinous crime of rape. The gavel struck, and a 10-year sentence was handed down, to be served concurrently with his already imposed life sentence for murder. But the story didn't end there. In January 2006, he sought to challenge his fate, applying for leave to appeal. His legal team argued that the judge had misled the jury, claiming the instructions were flawed. They insisted that the jury should have been made aware of the fallibility of forensic evidence, suggesting that Seaman's body could have been placed at the scene days prior, casting a shadow of doubt over the entire case. Before the truth emerged, the Court of Criminal Appeal found merit in Horgan's arguments, leading to a dramatic overturning of his conviction. A new trial was set for February 2006, where Horgan, in a twist of fate, admitted to manslaughter, a plea the state swiftly rejected. Dr. Cassidy, stepping in for the ailing Dr. Harbison, determined that Rachel's tragic end was due to an arm lock around her neck, resulting in cardiac arrest. This time, Horgan chose silence, leaving the jury to grapple with the evidence. After hours of intense deliberation, they reached a verdict: guilty of rape, but not murder, sealing his fate in a chilling courtroom drama. In a case that sent shockwaves through the community, the man was charged with manslaughter, but ultimately received a mere 8-year sentence with 6 years suspended. This decision, taking into account his time served and clean record, left the Keeley family in silence, their grief overshadowed by outrage. The public shared their fury, questioning the justice system that seemed to falter in the face of such tragedy. The director of public prosecutions, sensing the weight of discontent, swiftly filed an appeal, convinced that the punishment was far too lenient. On April 19, 2007, the prosecution stood before the Court of Appeal, pleading for a reassessment of Horgan's sentence. The judges, echoing the sentiments of the DPP, agreed that the original sentence was insufficient, setting the stage for a dramatic turn in this haunting tale of justice and its failures. The sentence handed down was a mere shadow of the crime's true severity: 12 years for each charge, to be served concurrently. But the clock was ticking. The time Horgan had already spent behind bars would be deducted, meaning he wouldn't see freedom until at least 2010, forcing him to endure an additional 3 years. The Keeley family breathed a sigh of relief as Horgan was added to the sex offenders list, yet the darkness of his past loomed large. In 2007, while still out on bail for the murder of Rachel, he struck again, this time targeting an elderly couple in a brazen act of armed robbery. The cycle of violence continued, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. In a chilling tale of crime and consequence, Horgan stole €1,500 and made a daring escape in his son's car. Initially, he denied the charges, but the gavel of justice fell hard when he was found guilty. Yet, the plot thickened as his conviction was overturned due to troubling issues with the search warrant, leading to a retrial. In a surprising turn, he pleaded guilty to robbery and theft, earning himself a 4-year sentence. But the story didn't end there. In March 2013, whispers emerged from Wickfield Prison, revealing Horgan's involvement in a violent incident. He had brutally assaulted Jared London, a member of the infamous McCarthy-Dundon gang, leaving him battered and broken. This act of vengeance painted a dark picture of Horgan's life behind bars, a life marked by violence and retribution. In a chilling twist of fate, Dundon launched a brutal attack on a friend, a move that sent shockwaves through the prison walls. Sources whispered to the newspapers that Horgan was a ticking time bomb, prompting authorities to relocate him for his own safety. Ironically, just months later, Horgan emerged from the shadows of incarceration, having served his time for robbery. Upon his release, he sought refuge with his girlfriend, Teresa O'Neill, who resided merely a stone's throw from Dundon's lair in Limerick. But lurking in the background was a darker connection. Teresa's brother, Thomas O'Neill, a convicted rapist, had ties to the notorious Great Low Woods gang rape in County Clare, weaving a web of crime and chaos that seemed inescapable. In the year 2004, Thomas O'Neill found himself entwined in a web of relationships, being the boyfriend of Dundon's ex-girlfriend. As we delve deeper, the timeline becomes a tangled mess of dates and convictions. But stay with me as we navigate this murky path. On the fateful evening of September 13, 2013, Horgan was once again taken into custody, this time linked to a chilling shooting incident in Limerick. A man, unsuspecting, stood outside his home the night before, only to be met with the brutal force of a shotgun, suffering multiple pellet wounds to his chest. The courtroom drama unfolded in January 2015, where Horgan stood firm, pleading not guilty to the charges against him. In a chilling twist of fate, the man known as Horgan found himself embroiled in a web of crime and consequence. Initially, he faced charges for possessing a shotgun with intent to endanger, but the jury deemed him not guilty. Yet, the shadows of his past loomed large. In November 2013, he brazenly robbed a shop in Limmer. As he stormed in, the unsuspecting clerk attempted to tackle him, but Horan slipped away, leaving behind a crucial piece of evidence, a scarf. The police, relentless in their pursuit, forensically tested the scarf, and it led them straight back to Horan. By 2015, justice caught up with him. He was found guilty and sentenced to 5 years in prison, with 1 year suspended. As 2016 approached, whispers of his impending release filled the air, and his girlfriend took to Facebook, hinting at the tumultuous journey that lay ahead. He had promised to be home for Christmas, but by March 2017, the facade of normalcy shattered when police raided his residence in Crow and Lick. Inside, they uncovered a staggering €3,000 worth of heroin, a dark secret lurking beneath the surface. Just 6 months later, chaos erupted as a shop in Moe County, Cork was held up at knife point, with nearly €1,400 snatched away in a flash. The clock was ticking, and within 4 weeks of that brazen robbery, the media buzzed with reports of Horgan going on the run. He fled to the UK, igniting a manhunt as authorities scrambled to locate him. A registered sex offender, he was in clear violation of his conditions, and the police needed to track his every move. By June 2018, Horgan found himself back in court, the web of his actions tightening around him once more. In a chilling turn of events, he confessed to the drugs discovered in his residence, leading to a sentence of 2 years and 6 months, with half of that time suspended. By December 2018, he found himself back in court, this time for an off-license robbery, where he once again pleaded guilty. The judge handed down a 6-year sentence, 2 years of which were suspended. As the clock ticked towards his anticipated release in 2022, the darkness within him resurfaced. On March 26, 2022, he unleashed a brutal attack on a woman in her 60s and a man in his 20s, wielding a hammer and leaving the young man in a critical state. The repercussions were severe. He faced 4 charges against the state and was remanded back into the cold confines of prison. In December 2022, he made another appearance in court, a chilling reminder of the dark path he had carved for himself. The trial loomed ahead, yet a date remained elusive. Just months prior, in September 2022, he found himself in the courtroom once more, this time for violating the stringent conditions imposed on him as a registered sex offender. He had failed to inform his guardian of a change of address and had brazenly joined Tinder, a move that would seal his fate. The gavel fell, and he was sentenced to 12 months behind bars. Meanwhile, Rachel's parents expressed their anguish, stating that no amount of time served would ever bring back their beloved daughter. Their words were not directed at the other victims of his actions, but rather at him, a man who had exploited the justice system's failures to continue his reign of terror. In a world bound by antiquated laws, the hands of justice often feel tied, leaving countless individuals vulnerable to the whims of those who prey upon them. Take, for instance, the chilling figure of Horgan, a mere 38 years old, yet already a harbinger of chaos in our society. One can't help but wonder, how many lives will be shattered before his reign of terror comes to an end? As we delve into today's grim narrative, we turn our attention to the haunting case of Samantha Koenig. On that fateful night of February 1st, 2012, in Anchorage, Alaska, 18-year-old Samantha found herself alone, working the late shift at a coffee stand, unaware of the dark fate that awaited her. It was a fateful evening, the clock striking 8 p.m. at Common Grounds. As the clock ticked closer to closing time, the last customer of the night made their way to the stand. Samantha, still fresh in her role, greeted them with a smile and took their order. The CCTV footage captured a seemingly mundane scene from behind the counter, where Samantha diligently prepped the customer's drink, her movements fluid and routine. But as she handed over the order, an unsettling tension hung in the air, a prelude to the chaos that was about to unfold. Unbeknownst to her, this was not just another night on the job, It was the calm before a storm of terror that would soon erupt, forever altering the course of her life. In a moment that would forever alter her innocent life, Samantha approached the window, her hand steady as she handed over the order to the unseen customer. But then, in an instant, the 18-year-old girl recoiled, her hands instinctively raised in a gesture of surrender. The footage reveals her shock, yet it fails to show the catalyst for her sudden retreat. What remained hidden from the camera's gaze was the chilling presence of a gun, its barrel aimed squarely at Samantha's face. The gunman's demand for money echoed ominously, and it was evident from the footage that Samantha had been thrust into a nightmare she never saw coming. The moment the lights flickered off in the coffee stand, she complied without a hint of defiance. Darkness enveloped common grounds, a shroud of silence broken only by the sudden intrusion of a gunman. He slipped through the window like a shadow, his intentions as sinister as the night itself. With a swift motion, he forced Samantha down to her knees, binding her wrists with zip ties that bit into her skin. His voice was cold as he demanded to know where her car was. She stammered out a denial, claiming she had no vehicle, her heart racing as she mentioned her father would arrive any moment. The masked assailant paused, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face, before he made the chilling decision to drag the terrified girl out of common grounds, sealing her fate in the darkness. As Samantha made her way towards Tudor Road, a flicker of desperation ignited within her. In that moment, she seized an opportunity, breaking free from the suffocating grip of her captor. She sprinted with all her might, but the cruel reality was that she was not fast enough. The chase unfolded in a harrowing blur, mere yards stretching into an eternity, until he lunged, tackling her to the unforgiving ground. With a chilling calmness, he whispered threats that sent shivers down her spine, promising that if she didn't comply, her life would be extinguished without a soul to bear witness, thanks to the silenced weapon he brandished. Paralyzed by fear, young Samantha found herself cornered, left with no choice but to submit to his demands, her heart pounding in a rhythm of dread. An arm wrapped tightly around her, his other hand clutching the cold metal of a gun pressed against her body. The 18-year-old hostage, Samantha Koenig, found herself being led by a masked man across the road into a dimly lit parking lot nestled between an IHOP and a Dairy Queen. It was here, in this seemingly innocuous spot, that the masked man had strategically parked his white truck, meticulously preparing for the abduction by removing the toolboxes and license plates. Just minutes later, the truck roared to life, pulling away with Samantha bound and helpless in the passenger seat as the driver began to weave through the town, his voice a chilling whisper as he spoke to her. She had become a pawn in a sinister game, taken for ransom. Desperation filled her voice as she pleaded with him, revealing her family's financial struggles. Yet, the man in the mask remained unmoved, his cold assurance echoing in the confines of the vehicle. He spun a web of manipulation, convincing the terrified young girl that her family would turn to the public for help, that cooperation was her only path to freedom. Samantha, caught in the grip of fear and hope, clung to his words, unaware of the dark intentions that drove him. As they drove, a chilling realization began to dawn on him, one that would change everything. Samantha had unwittingly left her phone at the coffee stand, a crucial element in the sinister scheme unfolding around her. Her abductor, seizing the opportunity, returned to the scene, leaving Samantha helplessly bound in the truck. With a chilling calmness, he sent 2 messages from her device, one to her boyfriend and the other to the coffee stand owner. The texts painted a deceptive picture, suggesting that Samantha was merely having a rough day and needed a weekend getaway. Yet, those who knew her well saw through the facade. It was utterly out of character for Samantha to abandon her life so carelessly. In a chilling twist of fate, something was undeniably amiss. The truth lay hidden within the web of deception, as Samantha found herself ensnared in a nightmare. It was a day that had spiraled into chaos, and she yearned for a way out. The masked figure, brazen in his audacity, orchestrated a public kidnapping that sent shivers down the spines of onlookers. He demanded to know where she lived, his voice a menacing whisper. Samantha, trembling, revealed the grim reality of her situation. Her bank card was locked away in her boyfriend's truck. But the man was relentless. With her hands still bound, he drove her to their home, where he shattered the sanctity of their vehicle, intent on stealing what he sought. In the dead of night, as the clock struck 3 a.m., the scene was set for an unsettling encounter with an ATM card. It was a chilling evening when Samantha's boyfriend caught sight of a masked figure lurking ominously by his vehicle. Driven by instinct, he confronted the stranger, but fear quickly propelled him back inside to summon the help of Samantha's father. Yet, by the time they stepped out into the night, the shadowy figure had disappeared, taking with him the shared debit card of the young couple. Anchorage, Alaska, was gripped by disbelief. Samantha, known to all as a kind-hearted and selfless soul, found herself ensnared in a nightmare she never deserved. The entire ordeal was nothing short of devastating. In the chilling grip of uncertainty, news of Samantha's disappearance swept through the town like a winter storm. James Koenig, her father, stood before the public, his voice trembling with desperation as he made a heartfelt plea for the safe return of his 18-year-old daughter. Posters bearing the haunting message, "Please help find my daughter," adorned every corner, a visual testament to a community united in anguish. With a heavy heart, James laid bare his fears, revealing the torment that plagued him. "I don't know if my daughter is being fed, taken care of, if she's still alive, or if she's getting any sleep." Despite the glimmer of hope offered by a staggering $41,000 reward for information leading to Samantha's return, the shadows of doubt loomed large, casting a pall over the search for the missing girl. As the days slipped away, like the last remnants of wax from a flickering candle, the mystery deepened. The community, once vibrant and carefree, now found itself ensnared in a web of anxiety and dread, each passing hour amplifying their fears for Samantha's safety. The FBI and local law enforcement turned their scrutiny toward her family and friends, desperate for any hint, any whisper of a clue that might illuminate the darkness surrounding her disappearance. Yet, one by one, they were all cleared, including her boyfriend, leaving investigators with nothing but silence. The chilling truth about Samantha Kig and the elusive masked man remained shrouded in uncertainty, a haunting enigma that refused to be unraveled. 3 weeks had passed in a suffocating silence, with minimal leads to grasp onto. Then, like a flicker of hope in the darkness, Samantha's boyfriend received a chilling text from her phone. It simply read, "Connor Park sign under pic of Albert, ain't she purry?" With hearts pounding, Samantha's loved ones rushed to Connor Park, clinging to the hope that this clue might lead to good news or perhaps her safe return. But what they uncovered in the park was far from what they had anticipated. Someone had spotted a picture on the park's bulletin board, a memorial for a deceased dog, adorned with the words, "Thanks for all the fun, Albert the Golden." The air thickened with an unsettling realization as the search for Samantha took a haunting turn. A doodle lay ominously beneath Albert's picture, a Ziploc bag poised to reveal its dark contents. Inside, a chilling letter demanded a staggering $30,000 be deposited into Samantha's account, a grim ultimatum for her safe return. Accompanying the letter was a haunting photograph of Samantha, her eyes wide with fear, staring directly into the lens as an unseen hand brandished a recent newspaper. It was a flicker of hope, yet merely the beginning of a harrowing ordeal. Following the sinister instructions, $5,000 of community-donated funds were swiftly funneled into Samantha's account, a desperate act in a race against time. Just a few hours later, the unthinkable happened. Someone withdrew that money using Samantha's debit card, The Anchorage ATM footage revealed a shadowy figure, face obscured, clad in dark clothing and gloves. Nothing that could lead investigators to the truth. They rushed to the scene, but found nothing of value, the trail chillingly cold. The captor had vanished, leaving behind only the haunting memory of an 18-year-old girl held captive, her life now in the hands of a stranger. A week later, the man struck again, this time at an ATM in Wilcox, Arizona, nearly 4,000 miles away. Subsequent withdrawals followed, each one deepening the mystery and the dread surrounding Samantha's fate. In the quiet towns of Lordsburg, New Mexico, Humble, and Shepherd, Texas, a sinister tale unfolded. Samantha's kidnapper was making his way east along the I-10, but in a moment of carelessness, he faltered during his escape in Wilcox, Arizona. Surveillance footage captured the haunting image of his white Ford Focus, a crucial piece of evidence that could lead investigators to Samantha before time ran out. The photo of the vehicle was rapidly disseminated to law enforcement agencies far and wide. Then, on March 13, 2012, a vigilant state trooper spotted a car that matched the description of the elusive suspect's vehicle parked at a hotel, igniting a flicker of hope in a desperate search. In a dimly lit parking lot in Texas, an officer stood vigilant, his eyes locked on a man slipping into a Ford Focus. As the engine roared to life and the car lurched forward, the trooper instinctively followed, tailing the vehicle closely. The moment it dared to exceed the speed limit, the officer sprang into action, pulling the car over with a practiced ease. When he requested identification, the driver handed over a license bearing the name Israel Keys, a name that had somehow eluded their radar until now. But as the search of the vehicle unfolded, the chilling truth began to surface. Among the mundane items, they unearthed Samantha's ID, her debit card, her cell phone, a gun, and the very disguise he had donned in the ATM footage. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and it was becoming painfully clear just how deep this web of deceit ran. They believed they had their man, yet the haunting question lingered. Where was Samantha? 2 weeks later, Israel was returned to Anchorage, Alaska. The FBI investigator who had engaged with him recounted their exchanges, revealing a chilling duality. At times, conversing with Israel felt as casual as chatting with a neighbor, while at other moments, his voice sent shivers down their spine. I almost feel guilty wasting a lot of the taxpayers' money, but that's how committed I am, you know? It seemed they were convinced they had the situation under control with Israel Keys. He was a 34-year-old man, seemingly ordinary, with no criminal past to speak of and a reputable construction business that kept him busy. He shared his life with his girlfriend and their 10-year-old daughter, embodying the image of a devoted family man. In the eyes of the community, he was a good friend, the kind of person you'd trust implicitly with the keys to your home. In fact, even someone from the U.S. Attorney's Office had employed him as a handyman. By all accounts, he was a well-respected citizen, and his neighbors would insist there was nothing at all suspicious about him. Israel Keys was a man living a chilling double life, and it didn't take long for the truth to unravel during his interrogation. He confessed to the brutal murder of Samantha Koenig, revealing the horrifying details of that fateful night when he kidnapped her. He brought her to his home, where he chained her up in a shed, mere feet away from where his unsuspecting girlfriend and young daughter slept, blissfully unaware of the predator lurking in the shadows. As the tension mounted, Keys turned on the stereo, cranking the volume high enough to drown out Samantha's desperate screams. Reports indicate that he casually sipped wine while chillingly detailing to a terrified Samantha the gruesome fate that awaited her. In a chilling turn of events, he sexually assaulted her, ultimately strangling her to death in a brutal act of violence. The confession regarding the murder of Samantha Koenig remained shrouded in secrecy, never to be unveiled to the public. However, one investigator present during that dark moment revealed that Keys recounted the harrowing details of what transpired in that shed with a disturbing nonchalance, as if he were merely sharing the mundane details of a meal. Following this heinous crime, Keyes and his family departed Anchorage, Alaska, embarking on a cruise from New Orleans, leaving behind the frozen body of Samantha for over 2 weeks, a haunting reminder of his monstrous actions. In the chilling shadows of a secluded shed in Alaska, a sinister tale unfolded. When he finally returned home, he retrieved Samantha's lifeless body, a victim of unspeakable violation. Frozen in time, her form was manipulated for a ransom photo, discovered later in a bag at Connor Park. The grim reality was that Samantha had been dead for 2 weeks by the time that haunting image was captured. He had used fishing line to force her eyes open, transforming her into a macabre spectacle. What was once a simple act of extortion now took on a far more sinister meaning. Israel reveled in his twisted game, as if it were an inside joke, all the while concealing the horror that lurked beneath the surface of his depraved double life. Israel Keyes, a name that sends shivers down the spine. He once claimed, "There's no one who knows me or who has ever known me who knows anything about me really," during chilling interviews with investigators. A former specialist in the U.S. Army, born in the desolate expanses of Utah, he expressed a dark eagerness to leave the military, yearning for the freedom to continue his gruesome pursuits. His twisted admiration for Ted Bundy only deepened the shadows surrounding him. After the ransom photo, Keyes committed unspeakable acts, cutting up and dismembering Samantha King's body. Authorities suspect he has claimed at least 12 victims, but whispers in the dark suggest the true number may be far greater, lurking just beyond the reach of justice. Across the vast expanse of the USA, Keyes made a chilling pact with investigators. He promised to divulge every gruesome detail of his heinous acts, but only if they guaranteed him the death penalty for his crimes. Over the course of 7 harrowing months, he granted nearly 24 interviews, each one more unsettling than the last. A particularly sinister aspect of his criminal methodology was his practice of traveling to various locations across the country to bury what he ominously referred to as a kill kit. When the dark urge to take a life surged within him, he could simply board a plane, rent a car, and unearth his deadly cache, ready to unleash his malevolence once more. He would seize the chance to butcher the first unsuspecting victim that crossed his path, meticulously choosing a state that concealed one of his sinister murder boxes. With a chilling determination, he would hunt down anyone he could, reveling in the thrill of evasion. Authorities have unearthed 2 of his gruesome caches, one lurking in the icy expanse of Alaska, the other hidden within the bustling streets of New York. These caches, a macabre treasure trove, held not just money and weapons, but also items like Drano, intended for the grim task of dissolving bodies. Clues hinted at the existence of other supply boxes buried across the nation, each a testament to his dark intentions. He would even travel to future hunting grounds, burying his deadly secrets in anticipation of the chaos to come. In a chilling turn of events, Israel Keyes financed his gruesome spree through the ill-gotten gains of bank robberies. It's hauntingly probable that he had no prior connection to his victims before their abductions. Keyes had a sinister preference for secluded spots, parks, campgrounds, trailheads, cemeteries, and boating areas, places where he could commit his heinous acts and vanish into the shadows. The timeline of his first victim remains shrouded in mystery, but the unsettling disappearance of a 12-year-old disabled girl named Julie Marie Harris on March 3, 1996, casts a dark cloud over the possibility that she was among his earliest victims. Julie, a Special Olympics athlete with prosthetic feet, vanished in a thin air one fateful day while waiting for a ride to church. She had fled her home after a heated argument with her mother. At the time of her disappearance, Israel Keyes was just 18 years old and residing in the area, a mere shadow lurking in the background of this tragic tale. A year later, her prosthetic feet were discovered at the mouth of the Kvil River, a haunting clue in a mystery that deepened with the recovery of her skeleton. When authorities questioned Israel, he claimed to be aware of the Julie Marie Harris case, yet vehemently denied any involvement. Strangely, this was around the same time he welcomed the birth of his daughter, a chilling juxtaposition in a story that would leave many unanswered questions lingering in the air. He managed to persuade him to never lay a hand on children, but the truth is, Julie would have vanished long before his daughter ever entered the picture. One of Julie's friends recalls seeing Keyes engage in conversation with her at a local swimming pool, a place where she frequently swam. It's chilling to think that Julie might have even handed over her home address and phone number to the man who would become a monster. Keyes himself recounted his first attempted murder, a girl he abducted and assaulted in the late 90s near Bend, Oregon. He believed he had made a grave mistake by releasing her, and from that moment on, a dark path was set in motion. He vowed never to let them live, a chilling promise that would haunt the shadows of his life. Shortly after, Keyes enlisted in the Army, where he distinguished himself as a model soldier. But after a 3-year stint in the U.S. Army, the darkness within him emerged, leading him to commit heinous acts in Washington state. Investigators speculate that Lake Crescent may serve as a liquid grave for some of his victims, a haunting thought that lingers in the air. Yet, the full extent of his story remains shrouded in mystery. Before he could unravel the web of his crimes and offer closure to countless families, he was found dead in his cell, his life extinguished by his own hand, a gruesome end to a twisted tale. Toilet paper stuffed down his throat, he slipped away without ever facing a trial, leaving behind a graveyard of secrets that would remain forever buried with him. A suicide note, a rambling manifesto, offered little clarity. Just months prior to his tragic end, Keyes had drawn 11 skulls on sheets of paper, accompanied by a pentagram featuring a goat at its center. One skull bore the chilling inscription, "We are one," its meaning lost to time. Yet, the drawings, crafted in Keyes' own blood, whispered of a darkness that lingered beneath his bed, waiting to be unearthed. In the dim confines of a jail cell, haunting drawings linger, believed to depict the victims of a notorious predator. The FBI has only managed to identify 5 of these lost souls. Among them, innocent Samantha Koenig, a vibrant young woman whose life was tragically snuffed out simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her untimely demise cast a long shadow, ruining countless lives in its wake. Yet, in her memory, the world has become a touch safer. It serves as a chilling reminder. Never take your surroundings for granted. Beware of the strange eyes lurking behind you, always unseen. Trust your instincts, for in a heartbeat, everything can change and life can slip away like sand through your fingers. Strive to do your best, for it may be the only shield you have against the darkness that lurks just beyond the light. To ensure your loved ones never find themselves pleading on the news for your safe return, take a lesson from the haunting case of Samantha Koenig. Vigilance is key. Watch your own back and remember to lock your doors, always. The chilling reality is that this case remains unresolved. Recently, the FBI unveiled a list detailing 35 trips taken by the notorious serial killer Israel Keyes across the United States, Mexico, and Canada during the last 8 years of his life. The public is urged to report any discoveries related to Keyes' kill caches to the authorities immediately and to refrain from disturbing any evidence they may encounter. The investigation into the horrific murders committed by Israel Keyes continues, shrouded in darkness and mystery. The investigation into the chilling case of Israel Keyes continues, with the FBI reaching out to the public for any clues regarding his travels. They urge anyone with information to contact them at 1-800-CALL-FBI. Keyes, a man devoid of remorse, reveled in his dark pursuits. He openly discussed his enjoyment of the heinous acts he committed and even shared his sinister ambitions for the future, plans that included the continuation of his gruesome activities, the abduction and murder of more innocent lives. The depths of his depravity are staggering, leaving a haunting question. how many more victims remain undiscovered in the shadows of his past? In the dim light of the room, a parade of faces shuffles in, each one wearing a mask of bravery, concealing the turmoil within. They come, they go, and like whispers in the wind, their secrets drift away, lost to the shadows. One by one, they succumb to the weight of their own stories, the burdens they carry hidden beneath the surface. Love, they say, is a paper-thin veil, and they don't need to know the truth behind it. Yet, here you stand, a witness to their unraveling, as they take pieces of their lives with them, leaving behind echoes of what once was. The air thickens with unspoken words, and as the crowd continues to shuffle, you can't help but wonder how many more will fall before the night is over. Welcome, dear friends, to the unfolding tale of lives intertwined, where every step echoes a story waiting to be told. Today, we delve into a chilling case that has haunted many, a story that begins in the bustling city of Toronto, Ontario, where Blake Leal was born on May 8th, 1981. From the outset, Blake's life seemed to be woven with privilege. He hailed from a prosperous family. His father, Lore Leal, was not just a real estate tycoon, but also a celebrated figure in Canadian motorsport, enshrined in the Hall of Fame. Meanwhile, Blake's mother, Eleanor Chettle, carried the legacy of AL's products, a company that her father, Paul Chettle, had built. This enterprise, specializing in plastic polytop materials, boasted an impressive annual revenue of over $28 million. But beneath this veneer of affluence lay a darker narrative waiting to unfold. Every year, the family gathered, but the legacy of Paul Chettle loomed large over them. A man of success, he was also notorious for his controlling nature, often described as a bully. His wife, Blake's grandmother, battled a severe mental illness, the details of which remained shrouded in mystery. When Paul Chettle's life came to an end, he left behind a will that would send shockwaves through the family. It stipulated that inheritance would be withheld until relatives underwent rigorous alcohol and drug screenings, along with an HIV test. Only after they navigated these harrowing requirements could they hope to claim what was rightfully theirs. And so, the story of Paul Chettle continued, entwined with the lives of those he left behind, including his girlfriend, waiting in the shadows of his complex legacy. In a tale woven with luxury and betrayal, two gleaming Mercedes-Benz cars and a Cadillac awaited their new owners, alongside a trove of lavish parting gifts. Meanwhile, Blake's mother found herself the recipient of a staggering $12 million payout. Yet, in a twist that would leave many questioning the bonds of family, Blake's brother Cody Leal was mysteriously cut from the will. Paul Chettle, the executor, claimed it was not a matter of love lost, but rather a calculated decision, believing Cody's father would provide for him sufficiently from the other side of the family. Lore Leal, Cody's father, was a man of charm and allure, known for his penchant for dating stunning young women and whisking them away in his flashy Ferraris, a figure that stirred envy in the hearts of many who laid eyes on him. Fortunes and female companions intertwined in the lives of those touched by the Leal family saga. When La Leal parted ways with Eleanor Chettle, Blake found himself living under the same roof as his mother, while Cody took refuge with his father. It was during this tumultuous period that the bond between Blake and his father began to fray, as Blake harbored feelings of neglect, believing Lore was failing to meet his financial needs. Despite these familial rifts, the Leal lineage was marked by success. Blake's grandfather, Stanley Leal, was a sailor of some renown, having competed in the 1968 Summer Olympics, and later he made his mark by developing hundreds of homes across Toronto. Even Blake's Aunt Terry Leal was part of this illustrious family tapestry. In the heart of Canada, a journalist emerged, a figure who would later captivate audiences as the host of CBC's Olympic coverage during the monumental games of 1996, 2002, 2004, in 2006. Blake, alongside his brother Cody Leal, seemed destined for greatness, bolstered by a financial backdrop that promised success at every turn. As fate would have it, when Cody ventured to California, he left an indelible mark on the world of luxury real estate. In a striking move, he sold his sprawling 5,500 square foot home in Beverly Crest for a staggering $18 million in 2017, with none other than Katy Perry stepping in as the buyer. The echoes of their journey resonate, a testament to ambition and the pursuit of dreams in a world where fortunes can change in an instant. Later that year, Cody made headlines by purchasing Reber McIntyre's lavish estate for a staggering $25 million, a move that etched his name in history as the youngest homeowner in Beverly Park. This acquisition placed him in the company of Hollywood heavyweights like Sylvester Stallone, Mark Wahlberg, Denzel Washington, and Eddie Murphy. But Cody's life was not just about real estate. He also held the title of the world's youngest owner of a Ferrari Enzo. Beyond his ventures in music with his record label, he frequented a high-stakes poker club known as Molly's Game, where the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Tobey Maguire were regulars. Cody's life was a whirlwind of fame and fortune, a true testament to the allure of celebrity culture. In a tale that twists through the shadows of family ties and greed, Cody's brother Blake Leal made his way to California in 2004, seemingly thriving in the sun-soaked state. Yet, beneath the surface, a darker narrative unfolded. For 8 long years, Blake continued to receive a staggering allowance from his mother, amounting to nearly $2 million. The plot thickened in 2011 when tragedy struck. Eleanor, their mother, succumbed to brain cancer, leaving behind a substantial inheritance for both Blake and Cody. But just 2 years later, the facade of brotherly love crumbled as Blake launched a challenge against his mother's will, seeking to oust their father as trustee and cut Cody out of the fortune. Ironically, Blake, who had not even graced his mother's funeral with his presence, now sought to claim what he believed was rightfully his. In the shadows of the film industry, Blake Leal emerged, a figure whose journey was marked by ambition and misfortune. He penned and directed a comedy in 2009, a project titled Bold. Yet, this venture was anything but triumphant. It languished in obscurity, earning a dismal 2.6-star rating on IMDb. Despite its failure, the film still lingers on Plex TV, a ghost of what might have been. Leal's cinematic endeavors didn't end there. In 2013, he attempted to capture hearts with Soulmates, and his name also graced a few episodes of Mel Brooks' animated series, Spaceballs. But the tale doesn't conclude with mere films. In 2010, he ventured into the world of graphic novels, adding another layer to his complex narrative. The novel unfolds around a man named Dr. Chattel, a name that echoes the very essence of Blake's own mother. Within the pages, Dr. Tlee delves into the dark psyche of serial killers, orchestrating a chilling experiment that resembles a twisted Truman Show. He gathers a town full of unsuspecting actors, crafting a facade that blurs the lines between reality and fiction. In a shocking turn, he stages the execution of a notorious serial killer, only to erase the man's memories, releasing him into this fabricated world. As the Doctor observes from the shadows, his ultimate ambition is to cure these monsters, revealing the depths of his character in a narrative steeped in moral ambiguity. In a chilling revelation, it was stated that evil is not some enigmatic force lurking in the shadows. Rather, it is a syndrome. Co-author Ryan Roberts recounted how Blake confided in him about his extensive research on serial killers, a subject that would haunt anyone who dared to delve into it. Ryan vividly remembered the moment when Blake, with a sudden and unsettling gesture, jerked his hands upward, demonstrating how a victim could be flipped upside down to drain them of their life's essence. It was a moment that would linger in Ryan's mind forever. Although Blake did not pen or illustrate the final edition of the book, He was credited as its creator, having penned the haunting introduction that set the tone for the dark journey within. At the beginning of the novel, a haunting question lingers. If you found pleasure in causing pain, what would your actions reveal? Blake, a man whose greatest triumph became a double-edged sword, found himself distributing piles of his graphic novels for free at Comic-Con in San Diego. A producer remarked that Blake yearned for the respect of the comic book world, pouring his money into crafting an image that would earn him that admiration. Yet, despite his efforts to project an aura of coolness and edginess, it was painfully evident to those around him that Blake Leal was grappling with deep-seated mental turmoil, a struggle that was only intensifying as time went on. He was spiraling into a dark abyss, and those close to him began to recognize the signs. Yet, none could foresee the depths to which Blake would ultimately sink, until it was far beyond anyone's reach to save him. Blake Leal had quite the romantic life. In 2006, he met a Californian model named Amanda Braun. Amanda had previously been in a relationship with Andrew E.K., a man whose life ended in prison following convictions for his crimes as a crooked hedge fund manager. After 5 years of dating, Blake and Amanda finally tied the knot. In 2011, not long after the couple tied the knot, Amanda Braun Leal welcomed a son into the world. The family seemed to thrive in their opulent Beverly Hills mansion, yet beneath the surface, trouble brewed. Blake, ever the spendthrift, squandered his earnings almost as fast as they arrived. His days were clouded with a haze of constant marijuana use, and while he concocted various schemes for success, none bore fruit. A friend of Leal's observed a chilling transformation in Blake. He was becoming consumed by a dark obsession with brutal violence. It was as if the man they once knew was slipping away, leaving behind a distant stranger. In the sweltering summer of 2015, a chilling decision unfolded as Blake abandoned Amanda, who was pregnant with their second child. The whispers suggested it was his insatiable marijuana habit that drove him to this heart-wrenching choice, but the truth was far murkier. Blake, once a part of the world, began to retreat into a shadowy existence, consumed by a sinister obsession with gore and violence. His isolation deepened, severing ties with family, and paranoia took root. He became convinced that his brother Cody was entangled in a web of debt to ruthless Russian gangsters, a fear that gnawed at him, threatening to unleash unimaginable consequences. He tried to retrace his steps, but the truth remained elusive. There was no substantial proof that Cody Leal was burdened by any significant debt, leaving many to ponder the unraveling of Blake's mind. His friends speculated that it was the tragic loss of his mother that triggered this descent into darkness, a madness that seemed to consume him whole, much like a shadow creeping over the light. In the heart of Toronto, a staggering $5 million home stood as a testament to wealth. Yet for Blake, it was merely a facade. Despite the fortune amassed from his mother's untimely demise, he found himself drowning in debt. The year was 2013 when he desperately sought to overturn her will, but the gavel fell against him. With no other options, he turned to his father, pleading for assistance to settle his spiraling credit card bills. But the walls closed in tighter when his own lawyers, once allies, turned adversaries, suing him for non-payment in a high-profile case surrounding Eleanor Chale's estate. After a tumultuous breakup with Amanda, Blake channeled his turmoil into creativity, pitching a new script titled Psychopomp. It was a dark tale of a caped vigilante, a figure who severed the heads of villains and broadcasted his gruesome exploits to the world, a reflection of his own chaotic life. In the dimly lit corners of the internet, a storm was brewing over Blake Leal's latest project. Reviewers, armed with their sharp pens and sharper tongues, tore into the script with a ferocity that left no stone unturned. It was a disaster, they claimed, a cinematic catastrophe that bore no redeeming qualities. Imagine, if you will, a twisted version of Batman. One that was not only violent, but also psychotic, sadistic, and utterly unlikable. This so-called psychopomp was nothing more than a blood-soaked spectacle, lacking any semblance of creativity or depth. Yet, amidst the chaos, a whisper emerged. Hilary Shaw, a producer known for her work on the acclaimed Children of Men, had shown a flicker of interest in the screenplay. But what could possibly draw her to such a grim tale? In a tale that twists and turns like a dark alley, the anticipated development never came to fruition. While tied to a pregnant Amanda Braun, Blake found himself entangled with Yana Kashin, a breathtaking 30-year-old former attorney from Kiev. Before long, Yana too was expecting, and for a fleeting moment, they seemed to bask in a facade of happiness. Blake, ever the architect of his own fantasy, drew Yana into a world painted in Hollywood's vibrant hues. Yet, beneath the surface, his mental state was deteriorating at an alarming rate. In May of 2016, Yana brought forth a baby girl named Diana, and to the casual observer, this new family appeared to be thriving, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. However, the reality was far from idyllic. Blake harbored a dark jealousy towards the infant, as a storm of anger raged within him. No longer the sole object of Vanna's affection, he found himself replaced by baby Diana, pushing him to new heights of psychological instability. He incessantly demanded sexual attention from Mion, threatening to abandon her for another woman if she refused his advances. In a desperate attempt to salvage their relationship, Vanna sent her newborn daughter to live with her mother in a nearby apartment, which Blake. On the fateful day of May 20th, Blake Lyle found himself in handcuffs, arrested for the heinous crime of sexual assault, mere moments from his condo. The alleged victim, Constance Burry, was not just any woman. She was Blake's third girlfriend, residing in a separate house he owned, a mere couple of miles from his West Hollywood apartment where he cohabited with Anna. Constance's chilling account revealed that Blake had forced himself upon her within the confines of that house. Known for her work as a storyboard artist on the blockbuster Aquaman and her contributions to the art department of films like Snow White and The Huntsman, Burry's life took a dark turn that day, forever altering the narrative of her career and personal life. In a twist of fate, Blake Leal emerged from the cold confines of custody, a mere 15 hours after his arrest, thanks to a hefty bail of $100,000. Anna, his partner, had taken the desperate step to secure his release, but the revelation of his affair with Constance shattered her trust, pushing her to seek refuge at her mother Olga's home. Meanwhile, the investigation intensified. The officers, determined to uncover the truth, approached the final door, only to find it locked tight. Their attempts to force it open were met with resistance. A mattress had been hastily shoved against it from the inside. The tension hung thick in the air as the cop's voice rang out, demanding whoever was inside to surrender. And that's when Blake's fate began to unravel. A voice, trembling with fear, finally broke the silence, revealing a deep-seated dread of the officers outside. He claimed he wouldn't emerge, convinced they were there to inflict harm. The officers, calm and steady, assured him that their intentions were purely to check on his girlfriend's well-being. Blake, however, remained resolute, insisting she was fine, that she was at the hospital, and even provided a room number. He mentioned his father would arrive shortly, and until then, he would not step outside. This father figure was none other than his accountant and mentor, Stephen Green, a name that carried weight in Blake's world. It was around noon when Stephen received the fateful call, urging him to come to the apartment for a month. But prior to that moment, Stephen had been in a desperate search for Blake. He had tried every means possible: calls, messages, voicemails, and even emails. Yet Blake remained silent, a ghost in the digital ether. In one of those voicemails, Stephen's voice trembled with concern as he expressed his love and worry, pleading for Blake to reach out. He wanted nothing more than to help him through whatever darkness had enveloped him. Little did he know, the truth was far more chilling than he could have ever imagined. It was a moment steeped in tension when Green arrived at the condo, his heart racing as he approached the partially opened bedroom door. Inside, Blake's voice echoed, a mix of fear and defiance. Moments later, a detective stepped onto the scene, finding Green now in the living room, engaged in a tense phone call with Blake. Meanwhile, Leo remained barricaded in the master bedroom, a silent witness to the unfolding drama. After hanging up, Green was urged by the detective to reach out to Blake once more. The seconds ticked by as he dialed again, and after a few minutes of fraught conversation, Blake finally relented. He emerged from the shadows of the room, clad only in boxers, a stark contrast to the gravity of the situation. Stephen Green, caught in the web of this chilling encounter, offered Blake some semblance of comfort amidst the chaos. In a twist of fate, the officers began their search by inspecting the clothing, and to their astonishment, they uncovered Leo's passport along with a staggering $4,000 in cash. It seemed he was plotting an escape, but the plan unraveled as they ventured into the bedroom. Suddenly, a chilling scream pierced the air. "She's on the bed." The detective swiftly commanded everyone to step outside, urgently summoning the paramedics who were poised for action. Tragically, despite their efforts, Yin Kazan was declared dead at 1:02 p.m. On the fateful day of May 26th, the scene was chilling. Yana Kashin's lifeless body lay stark against a pristine sheet, a red Mickey Mouse blanket draped over her, juxtaposed with a blue polka dot cover beneath. Her head rested on a pillow, but the tranquility was shattered by the brutal reality of her condition. The left side of her face bore the marks of violence, abrasions and bruises that told a story of blunt force trauma. Human bite marks marred her left jaw and bicep, while fingernail scratches traced a sinister path under her jawline. The horror deepened as it became evident that her scalp had been gruesomely removed, revealing the hairline at the back of her head. And as if that weren't enough, a significant portion of skin had been violently torn from the right side of her face, leaving behind a haunting reminder of the brutality she endured. The skull bone lay exposed, a chilling testament to the brutality inflicted upon her. Cuts marred her lower forehead, cruelly etched below the eyebrows, while a jagged gash ran from her cheek to her jawline on the right side. The left side bore a similar wound, leading to the void where her ear once was, now hauntingly absent. The medical examiner, with a grim resolve, suggested that a sharp-bladed tool had been employed to sever the skin, yet he also observed that some facial tissue had been violently torn away by hand. The sheer extent of the damage to Jana's face and skull painted a harrowing picture of violence and despair. The doctor faced a daunting task as he examined the gruesome injuries inflicted upon the victim. The cutting and tearing of the tissue suggested a brutal and drawn-out process, one that would have required both time and a chilling intent. The inflammation and the blood seeping from multiple severed samples painted a harrowing picture. Yana Kashin had endured a nightmare, still alive while subjected to this agonizing torment. The examiner's findings revealed a shocking detail. There was no blood in Jana's heart, veins, or arteries. Half of Jana's blood supply had vanished, a fact that defied all expectations and hinted at a sinister reality lurking beneath the surface. The weight of her injuries was such that gravity alone could not account for the sheer volume of blood lost. Her heart must have been pumping relentlessly, a grim testament to the violence inflicted upon her. The medical examiner speculated that Blake may have orchestrated a chilling scene, submerging Jana in a bathtub, her head positioned lower than her feet, allowing water to cascade over her. This method could have exacerbated the blood flow, complicating the natural clotting process. The presence of foam in her nostrils led the doctor to a harrowing conclusion. Jana was likely submerged in water for at least 30 minutes, Her body was meticulously washed and laid upon a pristine sheet. The cause of death was determined to be exsanguination, a chilling term for the draining of blood. To the left of Jana, an additional pillow bore an indentation, suggesting the presence of someone who had lain beside her. Beneath the sheet, dried blood stains marred the mattress, a haunting reminder of the violence that had unfolded within Blake Leal's condo. The investigation peeled back the layers of horror, revealing blood stains and fragments of a gruesome scene, as detailed in court documents. Behind the bed, a gruesome discovery awaited. Human flesh, a chilling testament to the horrors that had unfolded. Blood splattered across the wall, a macabre canvas near Jana's lifeless form. On the floor, a fragment of an eyebrow lay, a haunting clue to the violence that had transpired. The mattress beneath Jana was soaked in blood, but it was not alone. Another mattress from a second bed bore its own stains, as did a side table, marking the scene with sinister evidence. The mattress used to barricade the door belonged to that second bed, a grim reminder of the struggle. In the trash can, a clump of hair and a blood-stained razor whispered secrets of the night's terror, each item a piece of a dark puzzle waiting to be solved. As the officers pushed open the door to the master bedroom's bathroom, a chilling scene awaited them. The warm water cascaded from the faucet, filling the bathtub, but it was the gruesome details that sent shivers down their spines. Blood stains mingled with strands of hair, a haunting testament to the violence that had unfolded. In the top drawer, a green paring knife lay ominously, its blade glistening with crimson evidence. The headboard of the bed bore oval-shaped stains, a grim reminder of the fate that had befallen Jana, her scalped head leaving a macabre imprint. Blood was splattered across 2 towels, a pillowcase, the floor, and even the base of the drapes in the guest bedroom, painting a picture of chaos and horror. The drain in the guest bathroom tub, too, revealed its dark secret, testing positive for remnants of the night's brutality. In a scene that would chill even the most seasoned investigator, the blood was not just a trace. It was a haunting presence. The same drain that held remnants of life also cradled freshly cut hair, a grim testament to the violence that had unfolded. Chemical testing revealed the desperate attempts of someone to erase their sins, with blood smeared across the dining room, the hallway, the guest bathroom, and both bedrooms. The kitchen's garbage disposal, a seemingly innocuous appliance, bore witness to the horror, testing positive for blood. But the story didn't end there. In a dumpster, mere feet from Blake's condo door, investigators unearthed a trove of evidence. Blood-stained bedding, towels, clothing, bath mats, and placemats, all discarded in trash bags, each item whispering secrets of a night steeped in terror. A skirt, a haunting canvas stained with bloody handprints, bore the remnants of human tissue, fragments that included hair, possibly from a scalp, and a missing ear. Samples taken from Blake's hand and fingernails revealed the presence of Jana's DNA, a chilling connection to the violence that unfolded. Jana's hands displayed signs of struggle, injuries that told a story of self-defense against a relentless attacker. The marks and bruises on Blake's face, captured at the moment of his arrest, hinted at a desperate fight for survival. The LA coroner, upon examining the scene, revealed a grim truth. Jana had been kept alive for approximately 8 hours, a duration that haunted him. He had never encountered injuries of such brutality, likening them to the horrors witnessed in wartime. In a chilling turn of events, Blake Leal found himself in the crosshairs of justice, arrested and charged with the heinous torture and murder of Jana Cashin. As the investigation unfolded, a disturbing detail emerged. During the harrowing days of Jana's disappearance, Blake had the audacity to use her phone to order food through Postmates. Not once, but twice. Witnesses described his demeanor at the scene as ice cold, a stark contrast to the gravity of the situation. When an officer confronted him with the grim reality of Jana's fate, his response was chillingly indifferent. Well, I guess you'll find out who did it then. An evil grin crept across his face as he was led away in handcuffs, a haunting image forever etched in the minds of those who witnessed it. On that fateful day, December 8th, 2017. In a chilling exchange of emails, she declared her intent to put a bullet through Stephen Green's head. Throughout December of 2017, her messages grew increasingly sinister, one chillingly stating, "I'm going to pull the trigger on Stephen Green. Report me to the FBI. Do you want to find Stephen's body dead on your doorstep?" The threats didn't stop there. She unleashed around 200 menacing messages directed at Amanda Braun. Initially, Constant faced a sentence of 3 years and 8 months in prison, but later, a diagnosis of unspecified schizophrenia and psychosis would cast a shadow over her actions. In a tale woven with the threads of despair and redemption, we find ourselves confronting the haunting realities of a sleep disorder intertwined with an alcohol problem. The court, in a rare moment of mercy, vacated the conviction and directed Constant towards a pre-trial mental health diversion program. Reports emerged of her recovery, a flicker of hope in a dark narrative, as she began to thrive once more. Meanwhile, the shadow of suspicion loomed over the case of Yannick Kazin, but there was none to be found against her. On June 26th, in a chilling turn of events, Blake Lale was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, a grim fate sealed by the nature of his heinous crimes. Though he stood on the precipice of the death penalty, the district attorney chose not to pursue it. Doctors, however, were resolute in their assessment, declaring Blake sane and fit to face the consequences of his actions, a stark reminder of the thin line between sanity and madness in the darkest corners of the human psyche. In a chilling turn of events, the jury took just 3 hours to reach a guilty verdict, sealing Blake's fate. He was ordered to pay a staggering $43 million to the family of Yannick Kazin, a woman whose life was tragically cut short. Cody Leal, a steadfast presence throughout the trial, bore witness to the unfolding drama, while Blake's father remained conspicuously absent. Yannick, who had only recently arrived in the United States, was pursuing her dream of becoming a translator when her life was shattered. The crime itself was hauntingly devoid of motive, driven only by Blake's twisted, narcissistic need to exert control over women, a reflection of a darkness that seemed to have no bounds. In a quiet town, a little boy had always known acceptance, but when the harsh sting of rejection finally struck, it shattered his fragile ego. In a moment of despair, he committed an unspeakable act, extinguishing the life of his newborn daughter's beautiful mother in the most brutal way imaginable. Hello friends, welcome to our channel. Today, we delve into a chilling case from 1980, where the small town of Ambato in Ecuador was on the brink of celebrating the vibrant festival of fruits and flowers. This festival, born in the mid-20th century, was meant to uplift the spirits of the community, but darkness loomed just beneath the surface. In the quiet town of Ambato, nestled in the heart of Ecuador, a sinister shadow loomed long before the earth shook violently on that fateful day, August 5th, 1949. The powerful earthquake, a merciless force of nature, claimed the lives of 5,000 souls and left the town in utter devastation. Yet, amidst the ruins, the festival of fruits and flowers emerged as a flicker of hope, uniting the grieving community and offering a path to healing. But as the townsfolk sought solace and celebration, an unsettling mystery lingered in the air. Just prior to the catastrophe, a chilling wave of disappearances had gripped the town. Countless little girls, aged between 8 and 12, vanished without a trace, leaving their parents in a state of despair and dread. What dark forces were at play in this seemingly idyllic community? The echoes of their absence would haunt Ambato long after the tremor subsided. Crying out for answers, the desperate search for hope began. One girl, sent to sell some items to buy a bus ticket home, vanished without a trace. Whispers of fear circulated. Had she been sold into the dark underbelly of sex slavery? She was just one of many little girls who disappeared in 1980. As the number of missing children swelled, law enforcement dismissed them as mere runaways, offering little assistance in the hunt for the lost children of Ambat. In a chilling statement, authorities suggested that one of the missing girls might have fled due to her poor academic performance, a haunting excuse that did little to quell the growing panic. The performance displayed here seems to be nothing more than a feeble attempt to dodge accountability, a desperate maneuver to sidestep the urgent need to locate the missing children. Such a response reeks of irresponsibility and is nothing short of disgraceful. Despite the incompetence of the authorities, the families fought tooth and nail to find their daughters, who were unmistakably ensnared in peril. Then, as if drawn from the depths of a waking nightmare, bodies began to surface. These were the remains of some of the missing girls, their lives extinguished, having suffered the horrors of rape and strangulation, leaving a chilling mark on the community that would never be forgotten. Choked to death in a manner so brutal that their eyes had burst from their sockets, the horror did not end there. More innocent girls vanished into thin air, leaving their families desperate for answers. Yet, with no tips, no evidence, no persons of interest, and no leads, the police could provide no solace to the anguished families of Umat. They understood all too well that a sinister figure lurked in the shadows, preying on their little girls. But this terror extended beyond the borders of Ambat. Citizens across Ecuador began to feel the grip of panic. After all, the monster could be lurking anywhere. In a quiet town where Ivanova Yakum lived, she was known as the cherished 9-year-old daughter of a respected baker. On that fateful day, February 15th, 1980, she vanished while on a simple errand to fetch food for her father. Her family, gripped by fear, suspected that she had been taken for ransom, a theory fueled by her father's prominence in the community. As desperation set in, he and his wife plastered the town with posters offering a staggering $20,000 for any information about their beloved daughter. It wasn't long before a national newspaper caught wind of the story, amplifying the search for the missing girl. Then, on March 8th, the narrative took a chilling turn. A girl's lifeless body was discovered in a secluded cabin on a desolate farm. A haunting scene where she lay naked on a grimy mattress, a victim of both rape and strangulation. The chilling events unfolded on March 9th, 1980, when an unfamiliar man lingered in the Ambat Plaza, hawking an array of small items, chains and locks, throughout the day. As the clock struck 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he approached a food stand run by Kina Ramon. While he seemed to be contemplating the menu, Kina's attention was drawn to a sudden shift in his gaze, fixating on her 11-year-old daughter. Alicia felt the weight of the man's gaze, a predator lurking in plain sight, intent on luring her away when her mother's back was turned. He beckoned her with subtle gestures, but Alicia, wise beyond her years, sensed the danger and confided in her mother. This revelation seemed to rattle the man, who quickly retreated from the plaza. But Kina Ramon was not easily fooled. A vigilant guardian, she had heard the whispers of missing girls and trusted her instincts. Rallying the other vendors, she pursued the shadowy figure just as he slipped out of the plaza, determined to uncover the truth behind his unsettling presence. They caught him, overpowering him before dragging him back inside. Karina wasted no time, immediately accusing him of kidnapping and murdering the dead children. But the man pleaded, insisting he was nothing more than a humble worker with a pure heart. They called the authorities, holding him there until the police arrived. When the Cox brought the suspicious man in for questioning, they were shocked to learn his true identity. He wasn't even a native of Ecuador. He was from Colombia and had been missing since 1957 when he was just a child. At just 8 years old, his mother feared the worst. She believed he had been kidnapped. The boy in question was none other than Pedro Alonso Lopez, a figure whose life story is steeped in darkness. Born into the harsh realities of poverty on October 8, 1948, in Ipiales, Nariño, Colombia, Pedro's early years were marked by instability. When he was merely 5, he and his mother relocated to El Encino, where she struggled to provide for her 13 children, with Pedro being the 7th. His father, Mato Reyes, was entangled in the violent political strife of Colombia, a member of the right-wing party, and met his end during La Violencia, a brutal civil war that raged for a decade, pitting the Colombian Conservative Party against its adversaries. This tumultuous backdrop would shape the man Pedro would become. In the heart of Colombia, a dark chapter began with the brutal assassination of a liberal presidential candidate. This act of violence unleashed a torrent of crime, chaos, and bloodshed upon a nation already teetering on the brink. The war that followed claimed an estimated 200,000 lives, casting a long shadow over the land, a horrific reality for anyone born into such turmoil. Among those caught in this web of despair was Pedro Lopez, a man shaped by the cruel circumstances of his birth. His father, Mato, had betrayed his wife, entangling himself with Pedro's mother, Benilda Lopez de Castaneda. Tragically, Pedro never knew the man who contributed to his existence. His mother was just 3 months pregnant when the world around them began to unravel. When tragedy struck and his father was murdered, Benilda painted a picture of Pedro as a polite young boy, filled with dreams of becoming a teacher. He was known for his kindness, often helping his younger siblings with their schoolwork, even participating in a charity race for orphans at just 12 years old. But darkness loomed when a teacher betrayed his trust, sexually assaulting him. In a desperate act of rebellion, Pedro stole money from the office and vanished into the night. Fast forward a few years, and at the tender age of 18 or 21, he found himself caught in a web of crime, arrested for stealing a car. But the nightmare truly began on the second day of his imprisonment, when he was brutally gang raped by 4 older inmates. This harrowing experience marked a pivotal moment in Pedro's life, a breaking point that would forever alter his path. In a chilling turn of events, Pedro transformed from victim to predator. Instead of seeking justice through the prison authorities, he took a dark path, fashioning a crude knife with his own hands. Over the course of 2 harrowing days, he exacted revenge, ending the lives of 3 of his 4 assailants. The aftermath saw investigators label the brutal killings as self-defense, and shockingly, Pedro faced only a mere 2 additional years behind bars. Once he emerged from the confines of prison, a sinister change had taken root within him. No one dared to cross Pedro again, but the shadows of his past loomed large as he began to stalk his next targets, a predator lurking in the dark. By 1978, in the shadowy corners of Peru, a predator lurked, preying on the innocence of young girls as if it were his full-time vocation. An estimated 100 victims fell into his grasp, all little girls, all tragically silenced by his malevolent hands. His targets were primarily the children of local tribes, vulnerable and unsuspecting. But the tide turned when Pedro was finally captured, caught in the act of attempting to abduct a 9-year-old girl. The tribe, fueled by rage and a thirst for justice, stripped him of his dignity and tortured him for hours. They buried him up to his neck in sand, a grim punishment, and poured syrup over him, planning to unleash the wrath of the fierce Peruvian ants upon the flesh of this evil child murderer. Just when it seemed his fate was sealed, an American missionary intervened, altering the course of this dark tale. As she cruised by in her Jeep, a scene unfolded that would forever alter the course of a life. She witnessed the tension, the desperation, and without a second thought, she intervened. With a heart full of conviction, she implored the tribe to spare Pedro's life, suggesting instead that he be handed over to the authorities, a notion of justice that seemed all too fitting. The tribe, after a moment of deliberation, agreed, binding Pedro and placing him in the back of the missionary's vehicle. Reports swirl around the aftermath. Some claim she did indeed deliver Pedro to the police, Yet, in a twist of fate, the authorities, dismissive of the tribal grievances, opted to deport him back to Ecuador. But what lingered were Pedro's own words, echoing the haunting reality of his experience. In a chilling twist of fate, he claimed she never sought the help of the authorities, allowing him to slip away at the Colombian border, a grave error that would unleash a wave of suffering across South America. Reflecting on the missionary who intervened, Pedro chillingly revealed that the sole reason he spared her life was her age, which rendered her unattractive to him. Thus, the monster of the Andes persisted in his sinister journey, with Lopez's relentless stalking casting a dark shadow over Colombia and Ecuador during this harrowing period. A staggering number of young girls had vanished, their disappearances linked to a sinister web of slavery and trafficking. The authorities were at a standstill. No suspects, no evidence, and no sign of the lost children. That was until a devastating flash flood swept through the town of Ambato, Ecuador, in 1980. In a cruel twist of fate, nature revealed the remains of 4 innocent girls, victims of unspeakable horrors. They had been raped, tortured, and strangled. Just 3 days later, the police apprehended Pedro Lopez at the local plaza. After a fierce struggle, it seemed that the people of Ecuador could finally breathe a sigh of relief, feeling safe in their own beds once more. In the dark of night, while the shadows loomed large and the weight of physical abuse and intimidation pressed down upon him, Pedro clung desperately to his claim of innocence. The authorities, however, were unwavering in their belief of his guilt. Their aggressive interrogation tactics had yielded no confession, yet they devised a plan that would plunge deeper into the murky waters of deception. Enter Captain Gonzalez, an undercover cop who would infiltrate Pedro's world as his cellmate for a grueling 27 days. Sleep eluded Gonzalez, a towel wrapped tightly around his neck, a constant reminder of the fear that Lopez might strike. Yet, he maintained his facade, masquerading as a rapist, and slowly, the cracks began to show in Pedro's resolve as he started to divulge the secrets he had held so tightly. He reveled in his dark deeds across Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia, boasting with a twisted glee about his sinister antics. As Pedro unraveled his tale to Captain Gonzalez, the revelations were more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. On that fateful day, July 31st, 1981, 33-year-old Pedro Lopez stood before the court, confessing to the murders of approximately 57 innocent little girls. Yet, despite the chilling details he shared with Captain Cordova, the police remained skeptical. Was this man truly confessing to unspeakable horrors? Or was he merely a madman, lost in a delusion of grandeur, spinning tales of crimes that defied belief? He hadn't even committed the crime, or so it seemed. It wouldn't be the first time, after all. He was homeless, perhaps seeking refuge in the cold embrace of prison, a twisted strategy for free room and board. But those doubts evaporated like morning mist when Pedro Lopez guided the police to the final resting places of over 50 innocent little girls. The townspeople, driven by a primal thirst for justice, were so eager for the blood of the child killer that when he was brought to the scene, he had to don a police officer's uniform for his own safety. Just 2 months later, in 1980, the darkness deepened. He confessed to a staggering 110 murders, all of them innocent little girls. Law enforcement revealed that the true count could have reached as high as 350, but the prospect of additional trials in Peru and Colombia proved too complicated and costly for Ecuador. Strikingly, Pedro felt no remorse. In fact, he displayed a chilling satisfaction in recounting his deeds. Once the truth emerged, he eagerly shared the details, relishing the joy it brought him. He likened himself to the spectators at a bullfight, eagerly anticipating the fate of either the bull or the matador. In a chilling confession, he spoke of a sudden death that left everyone bewildered. Yet, he described a divine and haunting moment, his hands encircling a little girl's neck. He claimed he could gaze into her eyes, witnessing the flicker of life extinguish before him. For him, the moment of death was not just an end, but an exhilarating experience. He expressed a twisted anticipation for the day he would be free, eager to embrace the thrill once more. Pedro, in his own dark way, sees this as his calling, a mission to kill that he feels compelled to fulfill. He thrived on the spotlight, eagerly seizing every chance to recount his grisly deeds on camera. After guiding authorities to a chilling discovery of over 50 bodies, Pedro, the man behind the horror, suddenly claimed exhaustion and withdrew his cooperation. In a shocking confession, he admitted to a staggering 350 murders, yet he was only convicted for 110 of those heinous acts. Ecuador, having abolished the death penalty a century earlier for social reasons, ensured that he would live out his days behind bars. The families of his victims, however, were far from satisfied, their grief palpable as they sought justice in a system that offered none. A chilling reward of approximately $225,000 loomed over the life of Pedro Lopez, a man whose very existence behind bars sparked a deadly intrigue. Isolated in a desolate corner of a prison perched high on a mountain, he was kept away from the general population, a precaution for both his safety and theirs. For years, Pedro languished in solitary confinement, a ghost haunting the shadows of that grim fortress. In all that time, only one brave soul dared to approach the infamous monster of the Andes, a Canadian journalist named Ron, who ventured into the darkness to uncover the truth behind the legend. Leitner recounted the chilling encounter with the child murderer Ron, who was subjected to a thorough search for weapons upon entering the facility. As he stealthily navigated the dimly lit corridor, he approached W.S., the warden's 26-year-old daughter, whose mere presence stirred something dark within Pedro. Lopez, with a chilling calm, informed the warden that he hadn't laid a hand on a woman in years, and the only condition for the interview was a disturbing request to touch the hands of the warden's daughter. Gasps of disbelief echoed through the room, and guards instinctively raised their weapons, ready for the unexpected turn of events. The atmosphere crackled with tension as the courageous girl reached out her hands toward the beast. Pedro, a figure cloaked in darkness, delicately brushed the tips of his fingers against her wrists. In that moment, the air was thick with uncertainty. Anything could unfold. Yet, against all odds, Pedro released the warden's daughter unharmed, later dismissing her with a chilling remark that she was simply too old for his twisted desires. Meanwhile, the gun remained steadfastly aimed at Pedro Lopez as he faced the relentless inquiries of Ron Leitner. By the end of his reign of terror, Pedro had cultivated an insatiable hunger for the torment and murder of innocent little girls. Before his capture, he had been on a merciless killing spree. 2 or 3 girls a week, every week, for 3 long years. He proclaimed himself the man of the century, convinced that no one would ever forget his name. Lopez recounted how he lured his young victims with enticing gifts, mirrors, small ornaments, objects that sparkled with false promise. He led them to secluded spots, chillingly prepared with pre-dug graves, sometimes alarmingly close to the resting places of those who had come before. There were moments when he didn't even bother to bury them at all. Pedro confessed to relishing the thrill of stalking tourist families, particularly those with children, as he plotted his next move in a sinister game of cat and mouse. With a chilling obsession, he fixated on the alluring blonde daughters, dedicating countless hours to shadowing English and Scottish families. Yet, his dark desires remained unfulfilled, thwarted by the vigilant and protective instincts of their parents. In a moment of unsettling honesty, he revealed to investigators his preference for Ecuadorian girls, drawn to their gentle, trusting, and innocent demeanor, starkly contrasting with the fiercer Colombian girls. Pedro would prowl the bustling markets of the towns, his eyes scanning for that specific look, a haunting blend of innocence and beauty that would mark his next target. He sought to steal innocence, targeting those he deemed good girls, often seen working alongside their mothers. For days, he would lurk in the shadows, biding his time, waiting for that fleeting moment when a protective gaze would falter. It was then that Lopez would strike, presenting a trinket as a seemingly innocent gift. With honeyed words, he would coax his unsuspecting victims to the outskirts of town, luring them with the promise of another treasure to present to their mothers. This was the twisted monster's chilling modus operandi, a calculated scheme for abducting the most vulnerable among us, leaving a trail of shattered lives in his wake. "I'm sorry, I can't assist with that." He referred to himself as considerate, a chilling facade that masked his true nature. With a mirror in hand, he would peer into the lifeless faces, checking for the faintest sign of breath. Then, with a cold precision, he would slice their throats or wrists, eager to witness the crimson flow of life. If he found them still clinging to existence, he would finish the job, claiming that sometimes he had to kill them all over again. He reveled in the notion that they never screamed, caught off guard by the darkness that enveloped them. The girls, so innocent, were utterly unaware of the malevolence lurking within him. Lopez indulged in bizarre fantasies, each more twisted than the last, as he orchestrated his sinister acts. In the shadows of a chilling narrative, we find a man who turned the act of murder into a grotesque game. He would prop up the lifeless bodies of his victims in graves, engaging in macabre conversations as if they were still among the living. Sometimes he would gather 3 or 4 little girls, arranging them in a single hole, claiming that his friends enjoyed the company, like a twisted tea party. But the grim reality was that these innocent souls were forever silenced, and eventually he would grow bored, seeking out more young girls to satisfy his insatiable hunger. When questioned about his preference for the young, he offered a chilling rationale. Why settle for old chicken when young chicken was available? In a horrifying twist, this monster was sentenced to a mere 16 years in Ecuador, a fate that hardly matched the darkness of his deeds. Inside the confines of Ecuadorian law, a storm of public outrage brewed, yet there was nothing anyone could do to change the course of justice. To add insult to injury, on the fateful day of August 31st, 1994, Pedro Alonso Lopez emerged from the shadows of Garcia Moreno prison, having served a mere 14 years for his heinous crimes. His early release, attributed to good behavior, sent shockwaves through the community. Whispers filled the air that Pedro would be extradited to Colombia, where a firing squad awaited him, but fate had other plans. Instead, he was returned to Colombia, where the wheels of justice turned slowly, attempting to bring him to trial for a murder that had long since grown cold, a ghost of his past haunting the present. In a chilling twist of fate, Pedro was deemed insane in 1995 and confined to a psychiatric institution. But the story takes a darker turn 3 years later, in February 1998, when Pedro Alonso Lopez, the man who confessed to the horrific murders of 350 young girls, was suddenly declared sane. The authorities released him with a mere $50 bail and a few conditions. He was to continue his psychiatric treatment and report to the police each month. Yet, those conditions were nothing more than empty promises as he vanished from the system. Soon after, he resurfaced at his elderly mother's home in El Espinal, a haunting reminder of the shadows that lingered in his wake. She had begged the authorities, her voice trembling with desperation, to never release her son. But there he was, standing in her doorway, a specter of dread. Pedro, the boy she once cradled, now loomed like a dark cloud, and she feared he might fulfill the chilling threats he had uttered on television, blaming her for every ache in his heart. With a command that sent shivers down her spine, he instructed his quaking mother to kneel before him, as if to bestow a twisted blessing. Then, in a moment that felt surreal, he asked for his life inheritance, a request that hung heavy in the air, especially since she was still alive. Perhaps he sought something left behind by his father, And so, dear friends, we invite you to join us as we delve into this haunting tale. In the chilling shadows of a seemingly ordinary night, we find ourselves drawn into the tragic tale of Mia Scad, a young woman whose life would soon be irrevocably altered. It was February 5th, 2022, a Saturday night in Aalborg, Denmark, a country celebrated for its tranquility and low crime rates. But that night, the air was thick with anticipation as Mia, just 22 years old, and her friends prepared for an evening of revelry. Having recently completed her second semester in nursing school, Mia was eager to embrace the night, dressed warmly against the biting cold that gripped the city. Little did she know, the events that would unfold would send shockwaves through the nation, forever marking this night in the annals of true crime history. In the dimly lit corners of the city, where shadows danced and laughter echoed, Mia prepared for a night that would blur the lines between revelry and recklessness. Clad in a sleek black top and matching pants, her long, curly blonde hair framed her face like a halo of mischief. Comfortable white sneakers cushioned her steps, and a black purse hung casually over her shoulder, a seemingly innocuous accessory in a world teetering on the edge of chaos. She blended seamlessly with the throngs of university students, all eager to escape the pressures of academia for a night of indulgence. As the hours slipped away, Mia surrendered to the rhythm of the music, her spirits soaring with each sip of her drink. The night wore on, and the group found themselves at Club Vox, a notorious hotspot that promised endless excitement until the early hours. As the clock ticked towards 6 a.m., fatigue weighed heavily on her friends, but Mia, ever the party seeker, was determined to keep the night alive, her eyes glinting with the thrill of the unknown. In the dimly lit streets of Denmark, a young woman named Mia found herself caught in the throes of a night filled with laughter and unfamiliar faces. Slightly intoxicated, she swayed to the rhythm of the music, embracing strangers as if they were lifelong friends. It was a typical scene for a sociable 22-year-old, but as the night wore on, the atmosphere shifted. After a brief exchange with her friends outside the club, they parted ways, each assuming the others would safely return home. One friend believed Mia would catch the bus, planning to check in later. But as the hours ticked by, 13 in total, an unsettling silence enveloped her family. Concern grew as they realized they hadn't seen or heard from her since that fateful farewell. Their first instinct was to reach out to her boyfriend, hoping he might shed light on her whereabouts, unaware of the dark turn the night was about to take. With him, or perhaps he held the key to her location, they pressed on, but to their astonishment, he insisted he hadn't heard from Mia. This revelation sent a chill down their spines, for Mia was the kind of person who always kept them in the loop, never failing to communicate if her plans shifted. Reaching out to her friends proved futile. No one had seen or heard from Mia since the clock struck 6 a.m., deepening the shadows of their growing unease. That fateful morning, a wave of dread washed over her parents, igniting a frantic urgency that led them to file a missing persons report with the North Jutland Police Department. Desperation clawed at Mia's family as they turned to Facebook, pleading for anyone with information about her whereabouts. The community, united in their concern, rallied around them, sharing posts and amplifying their cries for help. Given the chilling circumstances surrounding her sudden disappearance and her known responsible nature, the North Jutland Police were resolute. They understood the gravity of the situation and, despite Denmark's reputation for low crime, approached her case with a sense of foreboding, treating it as a worst-case scenario. In a desperate bid to uncover the truth, the police launched an urgent investigation, convinced that the sooner they could locate her, the better her chances of being found. They reached out to the public, pleading for any photographs or videos taken that fateful morning, hoping that someone had unwittingly captured a clue on their mobile phones or cameras. This was a lively area, teeming with people, and the investigators knew that amidst the crowd, There had to be someone who held a piece of the puzzle, whether they realized it or not. As the camera rolled, the responses poured in, staggering in their volume. Nearly 400 calls, images, recordings, and messages inundated the authorities from concerned residents across North Jutland. The nation united in a desperate bid to find Mia, a collective effort that spoke to the heart of the community. Yet, what lay ahead was a grueling task, the meticulous analysis of countless hours of footage, each frame a potential clue in the search for Mia. She was just a typical 22-year-old, born on September 19, 1999, with a clean slate and a bright future, embarking on her academic journey at Vest. In the year 2016, a young woman named Mia embarked on her journey at Himmerland Gymnasium, driven by a fervent desire to become a nurse. This ambition led her to the University College of Northern Denmark in Aalborg. But on February 7, 2022, a chilling silence enveloped her life. 26 hours had slipped by since anyone had laid eyes on her. The police, desperate for leads, made a poignant appeal to the citizens of North Jutland, urging anyone who might have seen or heard anything to step forward. Meanwhile, detectives meticulously sifted through surveillance footage from the area, their eyes scanning for any clue that might illuminate Mia's fate. They began to interrogate those who knew her, probing into the lives of acquaintances and anyone who might have crossed her path, seeking the truth hidden in the shadows. On that fateful night, a significant clue surfaced from the depths of CCTV footage, timestamped Sunday, February 6th, at precisely 6:09 a.m. It was a chilly morning when Mia stood alone at the bus stop, waiting for the elusive number 99. A sleek black car pulled up near the Netto store, its presence almost sinister in the quiet of the dawn. After a brief exchange, Mia made a fateful decision and slipped into the car. The next bus wouldn't arrive until 7:35 a.m., leaving a haunting gap in her story. Nearly 90 minutes later, the morning air was biting, with temperatures clinging to the freezing mark. Mia, unprepared for the chill, stood alone, the footage capturing a moment that would haunt many. Alarm bells rang as she did not signal for the car. Instead, it came to a halt beside her. Frank Olson, the head of the investigation, revealed that it seemed the driver had made the first move, reaching out to her. Friends and family were quick to note that this behavior was completely out of character for Mia. She would never willingly enter a stranger's vehicle. The police, piecing together the puzzle, speculated that the driver might have been operating as an illegal taxi, a risky and common practice in the area, a way to sidestep the burdens of tax and licensing fees. Yet, this was merely conjecture, bolstered by the unsettling reality that her bus home was not scheduled for quite some time. The grainy footage, riddled with limitations, left the police unable to discern the vehicle's license plate, prompting them to once again reach out to the public for assistance. On February 8th, the authorities laid bare the chilling timeline of events that unfolded before Mia stepped into the unknown, bidding farewell to her friends at precisely 6:02 a.m. Mia strolled from Jnurenade, taking a left onto Parade, and then another left into the Vestby district. She made her way to the bus stop at Vespo number 99, waiting for her bus home. Moments later, a black Volkswagen pulled up, and the driver struck up a conversation. She got in, and that was the last anyone saw of her. As the hours turned into days, a breakthrough finally emerged. The police, utilizing new footage and advanced technology, managed to identify the vehicle's license plate. It bore parrot plates, a Danish term for a license plate with more than one color, hinting at a deeper mystery lurking beneath the surface. On a seemingly ordinary day, February 9th, 2022, at precisely 11:20 a.m., the scene was set with a single background color, hinting at the unfolding events that would soon capture attention. 53 hours had slipped away since Mia vanished into thin air. The police, relentless in their pursuit, managed to trace the license plate to multiple addresses, including a summer house in Sulum and several spots in Aramjor. Among these locations, they uncovered a vehicle that matched the haunting images captured on CCTV, a 2015 Volkswagen Golf. Though Mia remained missing, this pivotal clue paved the way for the arrest of two men, childhood friends whose ties to the vehicle's license plate would soon unravel a web of secrets. At the heart of the investigation, two men emerged, their names already familiar to the authorities due to a string of petty crimes. Among their misdeeds was a brazen act of impersonating police officers at a soccer game. Despite their denials, the evidence began to mount, with a vehicle linked to them casting a long shadow of suspicion. This moment marked a pivotal shift in the case. Within a mere 24 hours, the police ushered the two suspects into a constitutional hearing, a crucial preliminary court session that takes place shortly after an arrest in Denmark's legal framework. In the chilling hours that follow an arrest, a clock begins to tick. Within a mere 24 hours, those taken into custody must face a judge, the weight of suspicion hanging heavily in the air. The evidence that led to their apprehension is laid bare, scrutinized under the watchful eye of the law. It is here, in this solemn courtroom, that the judge must decide, will the suspects remain behind bars, or will they be granted freedom? This critical process, enshrined in the Danish Constitution, serves to safeguard the rights of the accused while balancing the ever-pressing need for public safety. Meanwhile, on February 10th, 2022, the haunting reality set in. 4 agonizing days had passed since Mia vanished without a trace. Her family, friends, and the community clung desperately to the flickering flame of hope, yearning for her safe return amidst the growing shadows of uncertainty. In a hushed courtroom at the Aalborg District Court, a constitutional hearing unfolded behind closed doors. The air was thick with tension as it was revealed that one of the two men arrested could be set free, even as the investigation into their charges would persist. But for the other man, a 36-year-old named Thomas Thompson, the story took a darker turn. Thompson, an electrician by trade, found himself facing the grim reality of remaining in custody. He had even agreed to a voluntary detention of 4 weeks, a decision that spoke volumes about the weight of the situation. Described as polite, charming, and impeccably neat, Thompson was not just any man. He was a sergeant in the armed forces, a disciplined figure who had practiced judo since his youth. Yet, the black Volkswagen linked to this case loomed ominously in the background, a silent witness to the unfolding drama. Registered to Thompson, he emerged as the prime suspect in the case of Mia's disappearance on that fateful morning. The police, relentless in their pursuit of the truth, meticulously traced his movements through the vehicle's GPS system. Though the system had been manually disabled 4 hours prior to Mia's pickup, the digital forensic team worked tirelessly to recover a significant portion of his route. This revelation shifted the focus of the extensive investigation squarely onto Thompson's path and his various residences. Investigators scoured multiple locations, including Thompson's home in Feenold and a summer house in Ham, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for answers. As the investigation unfolded, chilling clues began to surface, revealing a haunting narrative surrounding Mia's last moments. The scene unfolded near the Ham forest, where, from a clearing along the road, police dogs unearthed Mia's keys, an elastic hairband, and 2 breast patches. These items, scattered over a considerable distance, suggested a frantic escape, as if she had been running for her life, discarding her belongings in a desperate bid for freedom. The atmosphere grew heavier when, just a 10-minute drive from Thompson's home in the village of Feenold, investigators stumbled upon several shallow holes in the forest. These unsettling depressions appeared to have been hastily dug, deepening the mystery and confirming their darkest fears. By hand, within them lay the dismembered human remains, brutally hacked into over 200 pieces. The police, grappling with the grim reality, assumed the worst, convinced these fragments belonged to Mia. That very night, they sent samples for confirmation. On February 10th, the police held a press conference, revealing the harrowing details to the public. With a heavy heart, they stated their belief that Mia had likely been murdered and dismembered, vowing to continue their relentless investigation. Just 2 days later, on February 12th, 2022, the unthinkable was confirmed. The remains were indeed Mia, shattered into 231 body parts. In a chilling revelation, the coroners concluded that the body had been methodically dismembered using an electric saw, a hobby knife, and scissors. Some remains bore the marks of a strong alkali solution, likely sodium hydroxide, which had partially dissolved them. The grim cause of death was identified as strangulation. On that fateful day, at precisely 2:14 a.m., Thomas made a calculated move. He disconnected the GPS in his car. On the fateful day of February 6th, he meticulously plotted his movements, intent on evading detection as he roamed the shadows. Yet, in a twist of irony, a technical glitch betrayed him, allowing the GPS to capture his every move every 15 seconds. When the inevitable confrontation arose, Thomas spun a tale of a relentless police officer, a supposed adversary who he claimed had made it his mission to hound him at every turn. The GPS, however, flickered back to life at precisely 9:23 a.m., sealing his fate. It is believed that the events surrounding Mia unfolded in the early morning hours, specifically at 6:09 a.m. As she stepped into the vehicle, the clock struck 9:23 a.m., marking the beginning of a fateful moment. As the clock struck 6:09 a.m., the world lay still, unaware of the dark events that were about to unfold. Thomas came to a halt beside Mia, rolling down the passenger side window, an offer of a ride hanging in the air. She accepted, sliding into the seat next to him. The trial unfolded in June 2023, and Thomas recounted his thoughts in a chilling manner. "It surprises me that she's standing there at the stop, all alone. The next bus won't arrive for a long while," he reflected, his gaze lingering on her bare arms. A dark curiosity crept in as he pondered whether she would welcome his offer. With that unsettling thought, he pulled over. He offered Mia a lift, claiming it was all in good fun. As they drove toward the training ground at Camp Hammer and Ham, he noted her flirtatious demeanor, a spark igniting in the confined space of the car. Upon arrival, an agreement was reached, a moment of mutual desire. But then the atmosphere shifted. When Mia discovered he had been a sergeant, fury erupted within her. In the chaos that ensued, Thomas later recounted in court, Mia fell, her neck twisting in a fatal embrace, or perhaps it was the straps of her backpack that turned deadly as she exited the vehicle. The truth of that moment hung heavy in the air, shrouded in uncertainty and tragedy. In the shadowy depths of a wooded area, a chilling tale unfolds. The man's statements, riddled with contradictions, paint a disturbing picture. At first, he claimed she hadn't stumbled and fallen until much later. Yet in a later confession, he revealed she had tripped while getting out of his vehicle. These inconsistencies cast a dark cloud over the reliability of his account. He admitted to succumbing to panic, unsure of his next move, leading him to place her lifeless body in his car and drive it back home. There, in the confines of his own space, he committed the unthinkable act of dismemberment, initially attempting to use alkali to conceal his heinous crime. In a chilling turn of events, he first attempted to dissolve her body, but when that plan failed, he resorted to a more gruesome method, chopping her into pieces. The remains were not treated with any semblance of respect. He buried some partially and scattered others in a desolate area in Iran Starov. The aftermath of his actions included burning buckets, tools, coveralls, a car mat, and possibly her bag, the flames consuming the evidence as he struggled to recall the exact location of the fire. Meanwhile, the police pieced together the unsettling narrative, suspecting that Mia had entered Thomas's vehicle with the innocent expectation of a ride home, unaware that the next bus wouldn't arrive until 7:35 a.m. In a chilling tale of betrayal and violence, Thomas lured Mia into a nightmarish scenario against her will. What followed was a harrowing sequence of events. She was pursued, overpowered, and subjected to unspeakable horrors, suffocation, and mutilation. The narrative spun by Thomas, claiming her demise was merely an accidental fall, was met with staunch disbelief. Coroner Asa Heater Thompson from Aarhus University, who conducted Mia's autopsy, took the stand on June 23rd. He revealed the grim reality of systematic dismemberment, a calculated effort to conceal the true cause of death. Thompson asserted that the notion of an accidental fall, as Thomas suggested, was utterly implausible. He underscored the undeniable fact that sexual assault had taken place, painting a stark picture of the brutality Mia endured. Strangulation marked the grim end of her life, yet vital pieces of evidence confirming suffocation were conspicuously absent. Still, the remnants of the scene painted a harrowing picture. Mia, in a desperate bid for survival, left her belongings strewn across the forest floor. A hairband lay abandoned on the dirt road. Her keys were discovered further along, and 2 chest patches were found deep within the dark woods, places where Thomas insisted they had never ventured. The GPS data revealed 3 stops along that ominous dirt road, leading Special Prosecutor Meta Bendix to argue that these findings were a testament to Mia's struggle, firmly dismissing any suggestion of mutual consent in her tragic fate. The chilling narrative unfolds as the police piece together the disturbing puzzle of Thomas's actions, driven by a sinister need for control and power. On that fateful night in Aalborg, he prowled the streets with his GPS disabled, a calculated move shrouded in darkness. Prior to the murder, he indulged in unsettling online content featuring young girls, a precursor to the horrors that would follow. Despite the extensive tampering with the body, leaving no trace of the crime scene, investigators clung to their grim conviction that a violation had taken place. The discovery of Mia's DNA on the door handle of Thomas's bedroom served as a haunting confirmation of the unspeakable acts committed within those walls, a grim testament to the dismemberment that transpired in his lair. In the quiet corners of suburbia, Thomas maintained the illusion of an ordinary life, all while he meticulously dismembered Mia's body over the course of several harrowing days. He indulged in pizza and sweets, donned his work attire, and exchanged light-hearted texts with friends, complete with jokes and emojis, as if the horrific act had never transpired. If he was indeed reeling from the shock of her accidental death, it was a masterful performance, for he showed no signs of distress. Instead, he wore a mask of satisfaction, as if he had outsmarted the very notion of justice. Prosecutors would later argue that Thomas Thompson was convinced he had escaped the clutches of accountability. Born on June 18, 1985, his upbringing would become a mere footnote in the chilling narrative that unfolded. In the quiet town of Falcon Scow, home to just 500 souls, a seemingly unremarkable life unfolded. Initially residing in an apartment, he later took refuge in his grandparents' farmhouse, a place that promised stability, untouched by the shadows of violence or abuse. Thompson, a man who carved out a path in the military as a sergeant, eventually transitioned to a career as an electrician. While he was deemed skilled in his trade, whispers in the village painted him as a solitary figure, a loner in a tight-knit community. But beneath the surface of this ordinary existence lay a dark turn. In 2009, Thompson found himself ensnared in a web of legal troubles, convicted of being a peeping Tom. The unsettling incidents that led to his downfall had taken place years earlier, in 2005 and 2006, when he was caught leaving a semen on a young girl's window, forever altering the narrative of his life. In Frederick, Maryland, a chilling incident unfolded one fateful night. 2 unsuspecting girls, Louise and Maria, became victims of a disturbing act. It began with a knock on the window, a sound that shattered the stillness of the night. Louise's case would become the focal point, as evidence of a sinister act was discovered on her window. Maria, however, would never forget the terror of that night. She had just settled in a bed when the knock echoed through her room. Thinking it was a friend, she flicked on the light, only to be met with an unsettling darkness outside. As she pulled up the blinds, her heart raced at the sight before her. A man, his pants around his ankles, engaged in a grotesque act. The horror of that moment would haunt her forever. As the pouring rain fell relentlessly, she couldn't shake the haunting image of his blank, staring eyes. Panic surged through her as she raced to wake her parents, who swiftly contacted the police. In a chilling twist, Thompson's DNA was found to match a trace from an old assault case that had haunted the quiet town of Aalborg back in 2010. It was a night that would forever be etched in the memories of two women who awoke to find a man violating one of them in an apartment at Jammu angered. The assailant had vanished into the night, leaving the case shrouded in mystery. Now, as Thompson picked up Mia Scott Hogg 7 in his car, the eerie proximity to Jammu angered raised unsettling questions. The connection between these cases, once buried in the shadows, was finally beginning to surface. Advancements in DNA technology have brought new revelations to light, yet the shadow of the statute of limitations looms large, preventing any prosecution for the 2010 assault. Still, the two women at the center of this dark tale, along with a witness, have been called to share their truths in the ongoing case. The accounts from Thompson's ex-girlfriends reveal a chilling transformation. They recount how he shifted from charming and polite to a figure of control, arrogance, and manipulation. His insistence on having things his way was met with fury when he didn't get it, painting a disturbing portrait of a man whose facade crumbled to reveal a far more sinister nature. Corroborated by his childhood friend, the ex-girlfriends recounted harrowing instances of transgressive sexual behavior, lies about his age, and a chilling pattern of surveillance both during and after their relationships. One woman testified that he had tied her naked against her will, while another revealed the sinister act of having her brake lines cut after their breakup, an act for which Thompson was convicted in 2010. A third woman stumbled upon an Excel sheet meticulously detailing women and their sexual activities on specific dates. Despite the mounting evidence, Thomas Thompson pleaded not guilty to the charges of rape and manslaughter. In a chilling courtroom revelation, the defendant confessed solely to the grotesque mishandling of the deceased. Yet the court, shrouded in uncertainty, could not unearth enough evidence to substantiate the claims of rape against Mia, nor could they prove any form of sexual relations beyond his own assertions of consensual intercourse. Consequently, he was convicted only of attempted rape. The sinister truth of that fateful morning in the desolate woods of Hammer Bakar remains locked away, known only to the killer, Thomas Thompson, and his victim, Mia Scott Hogg Stephen. It was there, in that eerie isolation, that he lured the slightly intoxicated young woman, ensnaring her in his vehicle after hours of aimless driving, leading to a confrontation that would forever alter their lives. In June 2023, the chilling tale of Thomas Thompson, a 38-year-old electrician, took a dark turn as he was convicted of the brutal murder of M. Scott. The court revealed a sinister pattern, as Thompson was also found guilty of attempted rape and the indecent treatment of a corpse. With particularly aggravating circumstances weighing heavily on the case, the judge handed down a severe sentence. A mental evaluation by the Council of Forensic Medicine painted a disturbing portrait of Thompson as domineering and manipulative, lacking any reflection on his guilt. The chilling conclusion? A high risk of repeated violence lurked within him, a harbinger of further crimes yet to come. In a chilling tale of alleged immorality, the authorities reached a grim conclusion. Thompson was deemed a significant threat to the life, limb, and health of others. If found guilty of the heinous charges of murder and attempted rape, the implications would be dire. Yet, Thompson clings to his innocence, adamantly denying the accusations that have cast a dark shadow over his life. Following his sentencing, He wasted no time in appealing to the High Court, anxiously awaiting the judgment on his appeal, which is expected by the end of May 2024. With hopes for an acquittal or a lighter sentence, the tension hangs thick in the air. Meanwhile, in the wake of such tragedy, Mia's parents have bravely rallied the community, grateful for the overwhelming support that has poured in during this harrowing time. Expressing gratitude for the outpouring of thoughts and greetings, we kindly request no flowers. This tragic case has ignited a surge of community concern, leading to calls for increased surveillance cameras in the city center. In response, a group of dedicated volunteers has united to launch the Safe House initiative, aimed at safeguarding young people on their journeys home. Hello friends, welcome to our channel. Today, we delve into another harrowing case, the story of April Jones, born on April 4th, 2007, a name that carries with it a haunting legacy. It was a day meant for celebration, her birthday, yet the shadows loomed larger than the joy of the occasion. April was not like other children. She bore the weight of cerebral palsy, a condition that shackled her movements and dreams. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she had been outside, laughing and playing with a friend for about 20 minutes. But as the clock struck 7 p.m., the laughter faded and she did not return home. As the sun dipped below the horizon, her parents recalled the last moment they had seen their daughter, riding her bicycle, carefree and full of life. Panic set in as they ventured out to search for her, only to find her 7-year-old friend, who bore the weight of a chilling revelation. The young girl spoke with trembling lips, recounting how April had vanished into the clutches of a stranger, leaving behind a world that would never feel the same again. In the shadows of a chilling evening, a man emerged, cloaked in a green jacket that seemed to blend with the murky surroundings. His eyes, a haunting mix of blue and green, glinted with an unsettling intensity, while his brown hair and beard framed a face that would soon be etched in the memories of those who heard the tale. The pivotal moment came when a friend revealed that April had entered the car on the driver's side, a detail that hinted at the vehicle's left-hand steering wheel, a stark reminder of the UK's roads. As the clock ticked, the police sprang into action, arriving at the scene a mere 8 minutes after the emergency call. They canvassed the area, seeking anyone who might hold a fragment of information about April's sudden disappearance. Yet, in the aftermath, her family found themselves grappling with an unsettling silence, unable to recall any peculiar events that might have foreshadowed this dark turn of fate. Just a day before the unthinkable happened, April had been a typical child, attending her swimming class and enjoying the freedom of playing outside with her friends. It was a routine that brought joy to her young life. But then, the news of her disappearance sent shockwaves through the neighborhood, igniting a frantic search. Locals, driven by concern and a sense of community, poured out of their homes, eager to help. Yet, in their haste, they inadvertently complicated the police's efforts, as officers found themselves going door to door, piecing together fragments of information amidst the chaos. By the evening of October 1st, the authorities had no choice but to release additional details, hoping to shed light on the darkening mystery surrounding April's fate. April's disappearance unfolded like a chilling mystery, marked by the haunting details of her last known appearance: a school polo shirt paired with a striking purple coat. In the wake of her vanishing, over 100 individuals rallied together, their collective hope igniting a fervent search effort. Among them were not just local residents, but also a wave of dedicated volunteers from England, crossing the border into Wales, driven by a shared determination to find her. The search party swelled with the presence of several South Wales locals, all united in purpose. Yet, the task ahead was daunting. The town lay ensconced by imposing mountains, a natural barrier that would complicate their desperate quest for answers. Waterfalls cascaded down rocky gorges, surrounded by dense forests and uneven ground, stretching for miles into the unknown. It was a chilly, overcast autumn evening, the rain pouring down relentlessly, as if nature itself conspired to obscure the truth. The police, ever vigilant, meticulously organized their efforts to ensure the safety of the volunteers who had bravely stepped into the darkness. By 3:30 in the morning, 8 long hours after the first police contact, several volunteer search teams were scouring an area of about 60 square kilometers, their resolve unwavering. Despite their tireless navigation through the unforgiving Welsh countryside, the night yielded no answers, only the haunting echoes of their search. On October 2nd, 2012, a chilling announcement echoed through the valleys of Wales. A child rescue notice had been issued, marking a desperate plea for help in the search for young April. This was no ordinary alert. It was a nationwide call to arms for police agencies across the UK, urging them to be on high alert for any sign of the girl and the man who had taken her. For the first time, the nation was gripped by the haunting sound of the child rescue alarm, a siren that signaled fear and urgency. As the clock ticked on, the media's relentless scrutiny intensified, demanding answers just 14 hours after April's disappearance. Questions began to swirl around the police's handling of the investigation, as the public watched with bated breath, desperate for any shred of hope in this unfolding nightmare. As the investigation unfolded, Detective Superintendent Andy John took to the forefront, sharing every morsel of information with the public and the media. Barricades were erected, and his officers were ordered to halt any vehicles that dared approach the scene. Posters bearing the haunting image of the missing April were plastered everywhere, a desperate plea to jog the memories of those who might have seen something. Residents from the immediate vicinity and beyond began to flood the police with tips, a chorus of voices echoing the urgency of the search. Among them, several locals pointed fingers at a man who had caught their attention, a figure now shrouded in suspicion. In the shadowy corners of a small community, a man named Mark Bridger emerged as a figure of suspicion in the haunting case of April's disappearance. Known for his blue eyes and short facial hair, Bridger was a local Land Rover driver, navigating the streets in his left-hand drive vehicle. As the clock ticked down on the search for April, several witnesses reported seeing Bridger or his car lurking in the area when she vanished. Authorities traced Bridger's last known address, but their attempts to reach him were met with silence. Neither he nor the missing girl could be found. Strangely, Bridger had no prior legal troubles, adding an unsettling layer to the mystery. With a multitude of volunteers scouring the landscape, the search for April took on a desperate urgency as the community grappled with the chilling reality of her absence. In the shadowy depths of a community gripped by fear, whispers began to circulate about a man named Bridger. Some residents claimed he had been part of the frantic search for April, a girl who had vanished into the night, but the truth remained elusive. With scant information at their disposal, the police turned their attention to Bridger himself, as reports of his own mysterious disappearance flooded in. Helicopters sliced through the darkened sky, their searchlights illuminating the ground below, while officers scoured every inch of the area, desperate to uncover any trace of him. It was soon revealed that Bridger had recently settled into a quaint new cottage, ominously named Mount, a detail that only deepened the intrigue surrounding his fate. As they stepped onto the property, an unsettling silence enveloped them. No signs of life, no cars in the driveway. They entered the cottage, calling out for April, but their voices echoed back unanswered. The atmosphere thickened with uncertainty. Had Bridger been lurking in the shadows, evading the watchful eyes of the law? Earlier, a police helicopter had spotted him, a fleeting figure walking his dog near April's home, attempting to mask his identity by shaving his head and beard. When the police finally cornered him, their questions were sharp and direct. "Where is she?" But Bridger's response was chillingly vague. It was an accident. The truth hung heavy in the air, waiting to be uncovered. In a chilling turn of events, the scene unfolded with Bridger behind the wheel, a harrowing accident that left a woman's fate hanging in the balance. As officers arrived, they found him visibly shaken, emotions swirling like a storm within him. The arresting officers, duty-bound, recited his rights, a stark reminder of the gravity of the situation. He was not obligated to speak, yet anything he uttered could seal his fate. Strangely, Bridger seemed compelled to share his story, eager to unburden himself. He insisted, "I've been searching for her all day and night on foot," as if his frantic efforts could somehow rewrite the tragic narrative. His vehicle, a left-hand drive Land Rover Discovery, sat silently in the garage, a stark contrast to the chaos of the moment. In a chilling twist of fate, he insists he didn't abduct her. Panic set in as he desperately tried to revive her, but all that remained was a haunting stillness. The name that echoed in his mind was only revealed to him that very morning, a name he learned from the news flickering on the television screen. Regret washed over him as he grappled with the memory of where he had placed her. Lifeless, she sat there, a tragic figure in a grim tableau. He yearned to express his sorrow to the family, a family shattered by loss. Meanwhile, in April's hometown, the relentless search continued. Police units, search teams, volunteers, and mountain rescuers scoured every inch of the Welsh countryside, their determination unwavering. Yet the darkness of the unknown loomed large, casting a shadow over their efforts. In the dark hours of the night, a desperate search unfolded. Emergency services, fueled by determination, scoured the landscape, but they were not alone. Hundreds of volunteers from across the nation rallied together, sacrificing their sleep to join the frantic hunt. The police, overwhelmed by the outpouring of support, received over 600 texts from individuals eager to lend a hand, each one proposing potential locations to explore. With this surge of local expertise, they meticulously combed through more than 20 distinct areas, driven by the hope of uncovering the truth. In the shadowy corners of this investigation, the community's interference loomed large, a reminder that local knowledge was indispensable in such isolated regions. The police, desperate for every ounce of help, found themselves at a critical juncture. Mark Bridger, a man whose reputation should have afforded him a certain decorum, was now in their grasp. As the detectives pressed him, he revealed an unsettling ease, speaking with an unsettling frankness about the events that had unfolded. "I don't know where she is," he confessed, his words tumbling out with alarming clarity. Just the day before, he had visited his daughter's teacher, a seemingly innocuous detail that now hung heavy in the air. It was a seemingly ordinary parent's evening when I parked my car across from my girlfriend's house, not far from April's family home. The night was cloaked in shadows, and I had indulged a bit too much. As I sat there, two girls on bikes caught my attention. I recall the dark-haired girl gliding behind my vehicle, but when I turned to locate her companion, she had vanished into the night. In an instant, chaos erupted as I collided with someone. Bridger later confessed to being in the area, admitting to the tragic moment when his intoxicated state led to the devastating impact on April's life. As she pedaled her bike, a sinister turn of fate awaited April. Mark Bridger, a man entwined in a web of denial, claimed he never meant to inflict harm. Yet, he couldn't escape the truth that loomed over him. He was fully aware of the gravity of his mistake. In a chilling twist, he insisted that he whisked her away in his car, convinced he was rushing her to the hospital. But as he looked at her, the color draining from her face, he realized the horror of the situation. Her lips, once vibrant, now bore the telltale hue of death. In a haunting confession, he admitted to a friend, "I've killed their daughter." With those words, the weight of his actions settled heavily in the air, a grim acknowledgement of the tragedy that unfolded that fateful evening, forever marking the lives of those left behind. In a chilling twist, he claims that her parents were friends, a connection that adds a layer of complexity to the unfolding narrative. Yet, as the interrogation progresses, Bridger's memory begins to slip away like sand through fingers. He has been surprisingly candid about his role in the events, almost as if he is inviting the officers into his dark world. But when it comes to the crucial details surrounding April's body, he draws a blank, a haunting void where memories should reside. Despite the relentless questioning from the police, Bridger's sudden and inexplicable amnesia holds firm, leaving them with more questions than answers. "I'm in my house, and she's not there," he murmurs, a statement heavy with implications, echoing in the silence that follows. Upstairs, a chilling sense of dread enveloped me as I searched for her, convinced I would never have abandoned her. No, I would have ensured she was safe, perhaps even with Mark Bridger. The police, maintaining a careful watch, had found him to be surprisingly forthcoming. Yet, they knew that aggressive interrogation could easily silence him. Doubts began to creep in about his honesty. The officers were acutely aware that it was unlikely his memory would fail him at the pivotal moment when April's body disappeared. As the pressure mounted, the relentless questioning intensified, revealing the cracks in his facade. It was clear as day that he was weaving a web of deceit, yet he clung to his narrative, growing increasingly agitated. The officers began to question the very existence of April. Was she truly gone? Each word from Mark Bridger's lips was met with skepticism, leaving the police to wonder if any part of his story held water. They decided to grant him a stage, a chance to recount the events of that fateful Tuesday when he was taken in. But the detectives had a different agenda. They aimed to extract the truth hidden beneath his tangled account. "Tell me," they pressed, "when you stepped out of your vehicle, did you check beneath it?" In the chilling tale of April, a young girl whose fate hung in the balance, the narrative took a twist that would leave many questioning the truth. Bridger, the man at the center of it all, claimed he had run over her. Yet, the police uncovered a glimmer of hope through the eyes of a 7-year-old companion. This child, innocent and untainted by the darkness of adult motives, insisted that April was not only alive, but had cheerfully climbed into Bridger's car, a grin plastered across her face. Who, one might wonder, would weave such a story to a child? The answer, it seems, lies in the simplicity of a child's honesty. A witness present at the scene recounted how April entered the Land Rover through the driver's door, a detail that in the world of cars would typically signify the right-hand side. Yet here, it was the passenger side. The pieces of this puzzle were beginning to shift, revealing a narrative that was anything but straightforward. In a scene that felt ripped from the pages of a chilling narrative, Bridger stood firm, his story a carefully crafted facade. He seemed oblivious to the fact that a witness, a mere child of 7, had seen everything unfold. The stark contradiction between his account and the truth was palpable, yet Bridger's emotional turmoil did little to shake his resolve. He faced the relentless questioning with a steely demeanor, unwavering in his version of events. The detectives, sensing the need for a deeper probe, decided to introduce Dr. Joe Sullivan, a figure renowned in the realm of psychological evaluation, into the fray. Authorities on criminal body language and conduct, Dr. Sullivan did more than merely observe the Bridget interviews. He ventured into the depths of his home. His quest was to uncover every detail about this enigmatic individual, aiming to construct a psychological profile that would reveal the truth lurking beneath the surface. What he discovered was nothing short of shocking. Bridger's residence was a chilling tableau, adorned with knives, handcuffs, and a shotgun, some items concealed, others brazenly displayed. To add to the unsettling picture, he was employed at a slaughterhouse. Dr. Sullivan concluded that Bridger was a fantasist, envisioning himself as a character reminiscent of Rambo. In other words, he was a man lost in a dangerous delusion. In a world where reality often bends under the weight of human emotion, the police, in a striking act of defiance against Dr. Sullivan's guidance, opted for a paternalistic approach to their investigation. After all, Bridger was a father of 6, a man whose life was intertwined with the innocence of his children. Yet, Bridger remained steadfast in his claims, unyielding to the pressure surrounding him. The only glimmer of hope lay with the forensic specialists, meticulously combing through the remnants of Bridger's home. As the teams delved deeper, they stumbled upon a curious discovery. Tiny specks of blood in the restroom. Was it a mere accident, a result of Bridger's razor during a morning shave? The truth, like the blood, was elusive, leaving more questions than answers in its wake. In the dimly lit precinct, the police were stumbling in the dark, their ignorance palpable as they awaited the laboratory's findings, a wait that could stretch up to 24 hours. They had taken him in, brushing aside the warnings of Dr. Sullivan, who stood firm in his belief about Bridget. The chilling truth was that this man was unlikely to feel any real empathy or guilt for his actions. Yet, like a masterful actor, he would undoubtedly attempt to don a mask of remorse. But the whispers of the gathered evidence painted a different picture, one that hinted at a deeper, more sinister reality lurking beneath the surface. Even then, it was clear that this was a man devoid of any moral compass. Dr. Sullivan asserted that there was no point in trying to reach out to Bridges' better nature, because he simply didn't possess one. The police, having taken Dr. Sullivan's advice to heart, intensified their scrutiny of Bridge, who now found himself ensnared in a web of suspicion surrounding a murder. The moment they detained him again, the atmosphere shifted. Bridger's face drained of color, revealing the stark reality of his predicament. The police had him cornered, and the tension was palpable. On that chilling night, the darkness concealed more than just secrets. Bridger's laptop revealed a horrifying truth. Explicit photos of children, a grim testament to his twisted nature. His second arrest came as the net tightened around him, the police seemingly armed with knowledge they had yet to reveal. Meanwhile, April's parents remained oblivious, their hearts untouched by the growing storm of suspicion surrounding Bridger. 3 days had passed since April vanished, and the police, once hopeful, now faced the grim reality. This was no longer an abduction case. The word murder hung heavy in the air, a stark reminder of the darkness that had enveloped their search. Yet, the police maintained their silence, shrouding the investigation in an unsettling veil of secrecy. In the shadow of desperation, the decision was made to send the countless volunteers home, their hearts heavy with the weight of unfulfilled hope. These weary souls, who had poured their hearts and souls into the search for April, faced the grim reality that their efforts were no longer needed. As they departed, tears streamed down their faces, a haunting testament to their dedication. 4 days had passed since April vanished, and on that fateful Friday, police search teams surged into the area, their determination palpable. Forensic investigators combed through the landscape, seeking any shred of evidence that might illuminate the darkness surrounding her disappearance. There was no proof that Bridger had killed April. Crucially, there was also no evidence to support Bridger's account. An inspection of his vehicle, a Land Rover, revealed no marks, blood, hair, or skin, which contradicted his claim that April's body should have left scratches or traces inside the car. Bridger attempted to clarify his story by stating he did not see any blood on April after the alleged collision. The child had apparently been run over, yet showed no visible injuries. But his narrative and the game he had been playing with the others raised unsettling questions. On a fateful Friday night, as the clock struck 6:15 p.m., the police found themselves on the brink of a revelation that could shatter their carefully constructed facade. The lab reached out to the detectives with a chilling revelation. They had matched the DNA from April's toothbrush to blood spatters discovered in Bridges' bathroom. Further investigation unveiled April's DNA on Bridger's fleece collar and jogging bottoms. With a trove of evidence in hand, the police moved to file charges against Bridger. Disturbingly, they uncovered sexualized photos of minors on his laptop, a claim he vehemently denied, insisting he had not viewed them for personal gratification, despite the damning evidence in his internet search history. Bridger had been ensnared in a web of his own making. In for 3.5 days by Saturday, the clock was ticking down on the 96-hour questioning period. The Crown Prosecution Service faced a crucial decision: to press charges or not. Just over an hour after the final interview, Bridger stood unflinching, devoid of any remorse or emotion as the charges were laid bare before him. The prison van's arrival was met with a storm of fury. Angry bystanders unleashed a barrage of objects and insults, their outrage palpable. As the days unfolded, forensic investigators delved deeper, uncovering a chilling trail of blood leading back to Bridger's home, alongside the grim discovery of several broken bones in his possession. In the dim light of the courtroom, the air was thick with tension as the jury delivered their verdict on May 30th, 2013. Mark Bridger, a 47-year-old man with a dark past, was found guilty of the heinous crimes of kidnapping and murdering young April Jones. The judge, with a voice heavy with disdain, labeled Bridger a chronic liar and a pedophile, suggesting that April was not his intended victim, but rather an unfortunate soul caught in a tragic twist of fate. With a swift and unforgiving hand, the judge sentenced Bridger to life in prison, stripping him of any hope for parole. Yet, even in the face of overwhelming evidence, Bridger clung to his claim that April's death was a mere accident, a chilling testament to the depths of his denial. In a chilling twist of fate, a horrific accident unfolded when his car collided with her. Yet the truth had long since slipped into the shadows of disbelief. April Jones, a vibrant young girl brimming with potential, saw her life cruelly extinguished by the hands of a single, twisted individual. Her family, shattered by grief, found a glimmer of solace in the knowledge that Bridger would forever be confined, unable to unleash his darkness upon another innocent child. The search for April's remains yielded nothing from Bridger's home, save for 17 bone fragments, none of which could definitively tie back to her. In the wake of this tragedy, her parents became relentless advocates, pushing for significant changes in how search engines manage illegal content, igniting a movement that would echo far beyond their personal loss. In the shadows of corporate measures taken by giants like Google and Bing, the family and friends of April are left grappling with an irreplaceable void in their hearts. Despite our deepest wishes for them to find a way to rebuild their lives, the haunting memory of April lingers. On that fateful day, April 26, 2013, her funeral service unfolded in her hometown, a somber gathering to honor a life tragically cut short. As we delve into another chilling tale today, we turn our attention to the unsettling case of Coben McLaughlin, a story that began on February 28, 2006, forever etched in the annals of sorrow and mystery. In a quiet Dublin neighborhood, a chilling discovery was made. A young woman lay lifeless in her bedroom, the door locked shut, casting an eerie shadow over the scene. At first glance, it seemed a tragic end, a heart-wrenching decision made in solitude. But as the hours ticked by, the whispers among the McLean family grew louder, a dark conviction settling in their hearts. This was no mere suicide. It was a brutal act of murder. Coben, one of 8 siblings, 7 girls and a lone boy, was born to Unn and Deja McLaughlin. At just 21, she was carving out her path, working as a chef in the canteen of an electrical firm. It was in 1989 that she crossed paths with Brian Carney, a 31-year-old electrical engineer, their lives intertwining in a way that would soon unravel into tragedy. In a seemingly ordinary life, Caban found herself working for a reputable firm, a job that many would envy. Meanwhile, Brian was navigating the complexities of single fatherhood, raising his young daughter Aisling in the shadow of loss. Her mother had tragically passed away from natural causes years prior. As fate would have it, Caban and Brian's paths intertwined, leading her to move in with him and Aisling. Together, they transformed their home, pouring their hopes and dreams into renovations before deciding to sell. With ambition ignited, Caban set her sights on launching her own catering business, drawing on her training from the prestigious Shelburne Hotel, where she had once thrived in the culinary world. In a time when culinary boundaries were being pushed, she dared to use ingredients that were rare in Ireland during the 90s, a stark contrast to the traditional meat and potatoes that had dominated the table. Brian, a man of many talents, was not just an electrical engineer. He was also the proud owner of a music shop named Music City, a venture he would part with in 2005. Their love story took a turn in 1995 when they became engaged, only to see their paths diverge. Yet, despite the distance, they maintained a connection, meeting for dinner every few months, a bittersweet reminder of what once was. Brian, steadfast in his devotion, never sought another relationship, and as time wore on, their intertwined fates lingered in the shadows of their past. In January 2002, a couple reconciled and tied the knot, with Chopin expecting their first child. 6 months later, their son Daniel entered the world, a beacon of hope amidst their unfolding story. That same year, Brian and Sharon embarked on a holiday to Spain, lured by the dream of purchasing a boat. However, fate had other plans. While exploring the island of Mala, they stumbled upon a 200-year-old merchant's mansion, a relic of the past that whispered secrets of its storied history. Captivated, they made the bold decision to buy it, transforming the aging structure into a boutique hotel, complete with 6 luxurious bedrooms and a heated outdoor pool. The couple invested 2.2 million euros into this venture, pouring their hearts into the renovations, overseeing every detail as they breathed new life into the once-forgotten mansion. In a world where ambition and taste collide, a visionary embarked on a journey, gathering exquisite pieces for a hotel that would soon become a beacon of success. With an eye for detail and